Hello and welcome
Hello
to
and welcome.
episode number 66 of the Wise Guys podcast.
Well, he did want
Today,
somebody else to do the intro, so Justin,
today we are sharing our stories about spraining ankles. Brandon is here to question my Patriots fandom. We're going to talk some Giants, 49ers, some Bills, some Bengals. We're going to talk about Tom Brady's exit from the Bucks potentially. Uh-oh. Is Dak Prescott ready to take the next step? What an episode we have for you today. John's eating some oatmeal that looks like mashed potatoes. Brandon is wearing his glasses with the glare in his eyes, and I'm rocking a Giant shirt.
and I do want to say your Patriots card has been officially taken away. I've taken it away.
Can't do that.
I did.
Okay, so I played basketball, and we're sharing our sprained ankle stories. Justin sprained his. Pros up to him: rest, ice it, compress it, and then elevate it. And I have some pillows.
Nah, get up.
First time I sprained my ankle, I literally went to cut from the 3-point line. I did a little fake curl to the 3-point line off the screen, and I went to cut back door, and I just heard a little not a snap, but it was a crack. I was like, oh shit. Fortunately, it was only a grade 2 ankle sprain, but I heard a snap. It was the first time maybe it was just my ankle cracking or what have you. I thought I was like not going to be able to walk for a couple of months. It was the most painful thing. I was like, I tried to walk. I was like, yes, this is not happening.
Yeah. It was a 10.
And today,
a
Justin
10
came
to
us. It was about an 8.
Yeah.
It was an 8.
Yeah,
and today, Justin decided to. What happened exactly?
I'm not going to say I sprained my ankle, but I definitely twisted it, or rolled it. I was just going into the gym, putting my keys away, and some teenager going up. Yeah, I don't even know which teenager did it. I didn't even look back. I just all of a sudden felt a force fall on me. My ankle rolled. I ended up like leaning into a teenage girl on the bleachers, and I was like, "Oh, my bad." And then I was like, "I'm good. It was my fault anyway. I should have been paying attention." But now my ankle's feeling it. It's about an hour since it happened, and my ankle feels like crap. So I got an ice pack on it right now.
We've got one step out the way. And the other thing, before we jump into this episode, we're going to talk about the entire first week of the Wildcard preview, or the postseason first week, so to speak. We have to discuss Justin's Patriots fandom, because at this point, guys, I don't actually believe he's a Patriots fan. Yeah. So listen to this. We have to ask you guys in the comments down below. Justin is from the Bronx. He is a New York sports fan all the way through. And get this, his favorite football player is Josh Allen in Buffalo.
That's not my favorite football player.
He talks game, he talks trash all the time about Bill Belichick. He's a Mac Jones skeptic. And to be honest with you, after Tom Brady left New England, I don't even know if he roots for the team that much. I don't know if you can really be a Patriot fan. At this point, most importantly, you root for the Giants each and every single week. I think you're a Giant fan. That's masquerading as a Brady guy.
Yeah, and last but not least, he's wearing a Giant shirt right now. It's just gotten out of hand. It's ridiculous. You can't. It's been taken away. It's been taken away.
I'm not gonna lie. I feel attacked.
Well, you should.
And I'm hurt because
you should.
First off, I told you guys my New York team. I'm gonna root for the Giants. That's it. I root for the Giants in New York. I'm not gonna root for the Jets.
Bitter rivals. That is like rooting for
they are not bitter rivals. They have our number. We don't beat them. We didn't beat them in the biggest game. That's fine.
They're still rivals.
Instead of hating them, I respect them. Which is why I don the Giants blue today. It does make sense.
It doesn't.
Listen, I love the New England Patriots. I've been a fan since I was a little kid. That was the first team that I started watching, which is why I gravitated to them as a kid. So I've never hopped off the bandwagon. No, I've just gotten more and more into football, and I root for more teams. But my one and only, like if I'm gonna die with one, it's always gonna be New England. Like, do you think I'm a 49ers fan? No.
No, it's just getting out of hand. That's all I'm saying. It's just getting a little out of hand. It's just getting a little out of hand.
I don't think so. I think you guys.
I mean, like as a Patriots fan, Justin, I could never wear anything Giants related. Like that is sacrilegious. It's sacrilegious. It really is. Would you wear a Boston Red Sox t-shirt?
No, in fact, I have a World Series jersey collection, right? And I get one every single year from the winning team. I skip the Red Sox.
Yeah, see, so that's what I'm saying. It's sacrilegious. So that's why we're worried about your fandom and taking
It's
it.
different because this Yankees Red Sox, that rivalry is probably one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports.
It's not
Now, if you can tell
It's
me
still a
the
rivalry.
Patriots and Jets or the Patriots and Giants are probably one of the most intense rivalries,
It is.
that no, it is not.
Justin, it's Boston, New York.
Yeah, but they don't get up for it the way they used to.
Yes, they
It's
do.
not like baseball. New York and Boston and baseball is intense. I want to fight Red Sox fans when I'm in Yankee Stadium. Just for the hell of it.
No. You're missing the point.
It's not the same.
It's Boston, New York. It's the same
John,
thing.
humor me. Are the Knicks and the Celtics even a rival?
No.
No. Why?
Because the Knicks are not relevant enough.
Okay.
They are a rivalry
Patriots and
because it's
Giants.
Boston versus New York.
That just-
Boston versus New York
were the
is a
Lakers and
rivalry.
Clippers rivals in 2017, 2022? When they signed Kawhi and PG, yes. But when the Clippers were terrible in the 2000s, before they got Chris Paul, no, they weren't rivals.
That's different. LA versus that's different. I'm talking Boston versus New York. Like this goes back, man. It doesn't matter. You're rivals. The Patriots have owned the Jets. We're still they're still our rivals.
Yeah, but you know what? The thing is, for the little brother, like the Jets fans want it that bad. We don't care about the Jets. You don't care about the Jets, Brandon.
That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't
that's
change the
just-
fact that they're still a rival, though.
No, a rivalry is something intense. A rivalry is
No.
it's not like that. It's not just 10
No.
years of straight dominance by one team. That
Yeah,
doesn't
when
make
the
a
Steelers were
rivalry.
clowning the Browns every year, I did not view the Browns as a Steelers rival.
We
When
also
the Bengals were good, I considered them a rival. Right now,
see,
I
you're
surely do.
negating the history of football. Like, okay, yes, for a while we've been alive, but before that, the Patriots weren't relevant.
Okay,
Except
I'm
the
not
Super Bowl
negating the
appearances
history
that
of
they-
football. Outside
That's what
of
we're talking
07
about. That's what we're talking about.
Outside
Let's
of
not disrespect
2007
True
and
Bloods,
12,
It's not what we're going to do here.
what makes it a rivalry? Between the Jets, I mean, between the Giants and the Patriots, outside of the cities.
No, that
No,
doesn't.
it's
You
been
can't
two
take that
Super Bowls.
away because that's
Yeah.
literally the identity of the teams. You can't take that away.
If
If the 49ers and Chiefs play each other in the Super Bowl this year, that would become a rivalry because they play each other multiple times in the Super Bowl. So then
Well,
it becomes
all
a
right, but
storyline.
then by that logic, Boston versus New York is a rivalry because it's been that way since the beginning of Boston New York teams.
so you
It's
do you
literally just
consider,
been that way.
John, the Giants and the Patriots a rivalry?
Oh, yeah, for sure. But the Giants and Jets, not as much. The Jets just aren't good enough. And even now with the defense, like the Patriots have always been big brother. It's not a rivalry if it's just one side dominating the other.
It can be a rivalry still if you even if there's a dominant. There can be rivalries with that.
Yeah, I think
There
you
can
need a
be.
good example before I jump into our first topic, Brian Staley. You can't.
Off the top of my head, no, I can't think of one right now, but I know that there are out there. It should like I know they didn't fight more than once, but Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, that's a rivalry.
You know, okay.
They fought once.
You know,
Like
you guys
these are
forgot to,
rivalries. If I'm not mistaken, I'm sorry I'm not brushed up on my insane boxing fight history, but like Ali had rivalries that he beat more than once. Like Evander Holyfield versus Mike Tyson, that's a rivalry. Evander Holyfield wiped the floor with Tyson both times. The second time to the point where Mike Tyson literally bit his freaking ear. It's still a rivalry.
I feel like boxing rivalries are so much different than
It's not different,
football
Justin. Just
rivalry.
because it's a different sport doesn't mean it's different. It's sports rivalry at the end of the day, unless you can actually give me a feasible reason why
they're all different. In the
Listen,
NBA, divisional, Knicks Celtics, not a rivalry. Knicks Raptors, not a rivalry. Knicks Nets, slowly becoming one, but really the Nets have dominated us over the last couple of years. We haven't been a competent enough team to even make it remotely a rivalry. Now I guess we're getting to that point because since KD and Kyrie signed, we're jealous. So now we want to beat the daylights out of the Nets, and the Nets keep beating the daylights out of us. So there's just I don't know, this drive to really want to put your foot up this person's ass, and it just doesn't happen.
There
Like
it is.
Philadelphia, New York, and Philadelphia. If the Yankees walked into Citizens Bank Park to play the Phillies, that's not a rivalry. Now, if the Mets walked into Philadelphia to play the Phillies, that's a rivalry. That's intense. Giants, Eagles, that's a rivalry. Jets, Eagles, nobody gives a damn. So, and those
That's
are
also
passionate
different
sports
because
towns.
that's also different because they're in different divisions too.
Well,
In
that's one of
terms
the
of that.
reasons why I say,
But I'm specifically talking Boston, New York. At the end of the day, that's a rivalry, regardless of what teams are playing out there. That Boston versus New York goes deep, like it runs real deep.
I get that, but the reason why it runs deep is because of baseball.
Okay, I mean you could say that,
I mean,
but
it is the
still, I
truth.
mean,
I can go back to the 70s with Bucky Dent hitting a home run in Fenway Park to
okay.
to win the
But
pennant.
at the end of the day, they're still rivalries. I mean, John's the quote unquote basketball expert over here. I would imagine Boston, New York have met in the playoffs back in the 80s and 90s, and then you talk about the Patriots and Jets in the playoffs. You talk about Patriots versus Giants in the Super Bowl. These teams are meeting like that. I'm sorry, man. These are rivalries. Boston, New York is a
Well,
rivalry.
I don't feel like I'm being disrespectful to my team
You
wearing
are
this
being
shirt.
100% disrespectful.
I don't
That's a
think.
fact. That's a fact.
Do you have an NFC team that's your favorite NFC team?
No, I don't have another
John?
favorite
For
team.
me, it's Philadelphia.
Really?
I love Jalen Hurts. I love Howie Roseman. And as a Steelers fan, there's that cross-state rivalry, but I have too much respect for what the Eagles have built, and at the same time, it is still Pennsylvania that they would kind of be my second team if the Steelers are out of it. If the Steelers are out of it, I don't give a damn. I'm not rooting for anybody else. But in this point in the season, I'm rooting for the Eagles.
See, it's Patriots, ride or die. But I have other favorite players on different teams. I don't root for other teams.
As for the Knicks and the Celtics, they haven't played each other that many times in the playoffs because when the Knicks were really good in the late 90s, the Celtics weren't as good with Paul Pierce's first couple of years. But in the 80s, when the Knicks, it was like the Bernard King days, they weren't the powerhouse they soon became defensively. Pat Riley, they just weren't really good at the same exact time. First topic of the show, the Chargers have fired their offensive coordinator in Joe Lombardi, one of probably the most disappointing units in football this year. The average depth of target for Justin Herbert lacked far in comparison to his skill set and ability to just rip the ball down the field. That needed to happen in Los Angeles, but there is an even more important person to discuss. That is their head coach, and Brandon Staley. Brad and I talked about it a little bit in a reaction back on Sunday morning. Jair, I want to get your spin as somebody that had the Chargers winning this game. From the looks of it, Brandon Staley next season is going to be the Los Angeles Chargers head coach. I feel a certain type of way about it. Justin, coming off this epic meltdown, collapse, quite frankly, be the only word we can use. Is there any reason Brandon Staley should be back next season? Or is this something the Chargers have to do, maybe because ownership's not willing to go all the way in on a head coach?
Oh yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I feel like that's something the Chargers just feel obligated to do. Not saying that's something that they should do, but when you're up 27-0, you're on the road in a postseason game. Most times you would think you have the game in the bag. Tom Brady's not on the other side. This isn't the Patriots versus the Falcons. For the most part, you should win that game. I mean, for God's sake, somebody placed a $1.4 million bet just to win like $14,000 because of that game.
If we're going to talk about that
Hmm.
real quick, sorry to interrupt you. If there's any team that I'm going to bet on, plus, whatever the odds were, to make sure they close that game, the Chargers may be the last one. Then Minnesota. If there's any team not touching that situation, it would be the Chargers.
Yeah.
Like, if it's Tom Brady, it's a different story, but like, for that better to be in that financial position and then make that dumb a decision, to me is ludicrous.
Yeah.
If there's any team, that to me blew my mind.
I think that what stands out to me the most is, you're backing your head coach, and that's exactly what you're supposed to do. But you can't point fingers at the defense in that game. They caused about 5 turnovers in the game. You're like I said, you're up 27-0. The offense was completely, had no life in the second half. That was just a complete failure, and that's on the coaches to me. That's on the coaches. I don't know if when you're up by that much, especially in the playoffs, that isn't the time for you to, take your foot off the gas. That's your time for you to step on their necks. And the Chargers did the exact opposite. That was a debacle. That was a failure from everybody on that half. But I mean, I understand why they're keeping him. If I'm not mistaken, this is now back-to-back winning seasons for the Chargers. So I guess me and Brandon said it last time. But you people give up so fast. People give up on their head coaches so fast rather than letting them, I guess, develop or learn from their mistakes. So maybe I guess I don't want to be too hard on the guy and say maybe he'll learn from this and the Chargers will get better because they did get into the playoffs. This was Herbert's first taste of the postseason. Maybe next year this team will be healthier. I think people seem to forget that this was a team riddled with injuries. Nobody was completely healthy the whole way through. They didn't even have Mike Williams for that game. Not like it would have made a difference. They were up 27-0. So maybe this Chargers team just needed this. Maybe Brandon Staley will wake up and next year be a way better coach and fix his mistakes. From what I've heard, while he'll be back, there'll be some changes on the coaching staff. I think that's a must. But we'll see. I guess I'm not going to be too hard on him. The Chargers should be going all out really for Sean Payton, but if you're not going to do it, then you just stick with what's in-house and hope that, you guys continue to get better.
So do you think that they should stick with Staley?
If you're not going to be able to get Sean Payton, if you're not going to go all out to get that guy to really elevate Justin Herbert, I'd say, yeah.
Well, then wouldn't that be the reason, though, that you would get rid of Staley is to go splurge for Sean Payton because you believe you're on the cusp?
Agree. But do you actually see the Chargers giving up multiple firsts for a head coach? And
It's
then
not
also,
about what go ahead.
and then also, you have to give him complete control of the organization too. I'm not sure if the Chargers will be willing to do that.
Yeah, see, it's not about what I see or what they would really be willing to do. It would be willing to do. It's what you're willing to do to win a Super Bowl. Like, are we trying to win or not? Like, if I'm the GM or whatever, if I'm the owner of the Chargers, I'm going. The right thing to do is to go splurge for Sean Payton because you are on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl. You're right there, and Sean Payton can put you over the edge. So yeah, I mean, I guess stick with Staley if you're not going to, but if you're not going to go for Sean Payton, then I mean, you're kind of basically admitting that you're fine with being a middle of the pack team that kind of underachieves, but then by midseason overachieves because our expectations have dwindled so low for them. If you're fine with that, cheers to you, I guess, but sucks for the fans, sucks for Justin Herbert. And yeah, because I mean, I just don't see it, man. Like, again, and you brought up the Mike Williams injury again. Whose fault was that?
Yeah, no, it
That was
was on
Brandon
Staley. You're
Staley.
right.
Because why are you playing your starting players? How late was it into the fourth quarter of
I
a
think the
meaningless
third quarter,
week 18 game? So again, and you blow a 27-0, he's got to go, man. He's got to go. He can't. If you're trying to win, if at the end of the day you're trying to win a Super Bowl, Brandon Staley's not the guy, and Sean Payton is. You go get Sean Payton.
And that
go get Sean Payton.
I absolutely agree. Go get Sean Payton, but that's also not a given. There's going to be a lot of suitors out there going for him. I don't know if the Chargers aren't willing to go for it, then who do you go with if you can't get him?
You don't.
Here's the issue here, and this is why the Chargers are an unserious franchise. Brandon Staley's making about $4 million. Sean Payton would be much more than that. If you could give me the proposition, I'd give up a first-round pick, maybe a day 2 or day 3 pick, for Sean Payton and Vic Fangio as my defensive coordinator, if I'm the Chargers, a team that is fully invested in the star-studded roster, it's not even a question. You talk about all these stars, look at all these stars in the defense, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, J.C. Jackson, who tore his ACL, and all these other stars. What will those stars get you the last 2 years? 0 playoff wins. 0 playoff wins. Now, I think Brandon Staley's a fraud. I look at the Fangio-style defense that Joe Woods, the guy in Green Bay, Joe Barry, Ed Donatel, who just got embarrassed by Daniel Jones, have tried to implement. None of them can do it like Vic Fangio. He is the only single person in my eyes. So if you're the Chargers, you look at all this opportunity with a young top 5 quarterback on a rookie contract, the audacity to stick with Brandon Staley, who has this analytics mind everybody loved, who then backed out of that sort of philosophy to become a more normal head coach, so to speak, and not as innovative. To me, this is beyond ludicrous. It is pathetic. The fact that the Chargers, a franchise with 0 playoff success almost, only 1 conference championship appearance with Phillip Rivers, is now doing the same exact thing to Justin Herbert. I don't want to hear a damn thing about Brandon Staley giving him some benefit of the doubt. One of the most important things as a head coach is hiring the right offensive coordinator. And I watched Joe Lombardi for 2 years hold back Justin Herbert. You look at this Chargers defense, and they're pretty good in the secondary, up until it matters the most. You look at what they do up front. I could run for 4.5 yards per carry against them. I'm 145 pounds. That's how easy it is. Anybody can. It's ridiculous. So I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, what they've done, winning seasons. I do not care. This offseason, Justin Herbert is going to get extended. And when that happens, the championship window is shut. Last offseason, you could have hired Brandon Staley after missing the playoffs after the embarrassing loss versus the Raiders, and you chose not to. And guess what you missed out on? Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll this year won more playoff games with Daniel Jones than Brandon Staley did with Justin Herbert. And this offseason, you had a second opportunity to right your wrong. And you know what you did? You stuck your foot in the ground. The whole reason Sean Payton doesn't want to go back to California to coach in Los Angeles, he's from San Mateo, because ownership's not willing to put their money where their mouth is. For a franchise that has all these stars does not mean a damn thing. When they're always injured, they're not well coached, and the biggest of moments they frazzle due to a lack of leadership and some semblance of structure. And I'm laughing because no one seems to acknowledge this, and is the most... Look, Chargers, awesome quarterback, phenomenal social media team, and great uniforms. Unserious franchise. Absolutely unserious. In other words, poverty, as some people might say. That's the only way you can put it.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think the Chargers have kind of shown us who they are over the years. I mean, look how they treated Phillip Rivers, and then now we're getting a kind of a taste of how they're going to treat Justin Herbert. Disappointing. Very disappointing.
It is disappointing. I mean, if you have the chance to absolutely go in on Sean Payton, why not? You know, you have, like you said, you're a franchise that hasn't had any postseason success whatsoever. I don't think you've been to an AFC title game since way back in 07, 08. You're supposed to be going all in, but I don't think the Chargers are willing to do that. So, yeah, Brandon Staley's going to be their guy, and it's just up to who's the OC.
They better hope it's a pretty good one. Jim Harbaugh has already informed the Denver Broncos he won't be going to the NFL. He'll be signing an extension at Michigan. As I just went deeply in on the Chargers, the Raptors and Bucks broke out into a fight with about 6 minutes left in the game. A little good old shoving match with a 300-pound Brook Lopez. I would not be pushing that guy around. One last thing, Justin, you were very high on Justin Herbert as I think, a top 5 quarterback. Were some of these, criticisms of Herbert somewhat right, that he can't lead a team? Maybe some of it was the play calling, but at the same time, to blow a 27-point lead, that's something Deshaun Watson does. What has he done in the postseason? Do you now grow concerned a little bit more, kind of pushing back some on Justin Herbert after seeing that type of letdown?
No, not at all. I'd feel like it's unfair to point the finger at him and say, "Oh, this is a guy that can't lead a team." I think that's pretty ridiculous, actually. The guy's how old, and he's making his first postseason appearance also on the road. Unfortunately, 27-0. That's something you don't foresee. That's a disgrace for a franchise. But the guy's so young. He puts up big time numbers. I mean, he didn't put up huge numbers this year as far as touchdowns go. But he also is playing with a team that, like I said, wasn't healthy. A team that I guess lacks the explosiveness on the field that a Miami may have, or that true speedster, that true game breaker. Because, Mike Williams could take the top off the defense. He could be a great one-on-one threat. Keenan Allen's an excellent route runner and possession receiver, but none of them are going to blow you away as far as speed goes. Maybe they need that explosiveness. I just think if this team is healthy, I think we're talking about the Chargers in a different light. For the majority of the season, J.C. Jackson was out. Khalil Mack missed time, Bosa missed time. They all missed time. I think it's kind of hard to really go in on Justin Herbert with what he had to deal with this year. And you see how you guys are talking about the head coach. I would think that's an exact reason why you guys should cut him a little bit of slack.
Cut him a tad bit of slack, but also it's like I said on Sunday with John, he does not get absolved of any blame because I pointed to a couple of different throws, touchdown throws that he just completely missed, the one especially to Keenan Allen. And it's just what I basically said was, for a guy who gets touted as this special player and a guy who can be up there with Burrow and Mahomes, he wasn't special on that night. He wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
That's just what it is. I'm gonna cut him a little bit of slack, like I said, but at the end of the day, he didn't get the job done either. And you're a part of that 27-0 blown lead. You're part of it.
That's fair, but to say that he can't lead a team and with that being an assessment of him going forward, I don't think that's right.
Well, it's not a good start. I can tell you that much. It's not a good start.
It was a bad.
You're gonna have to overcome some things. You're gonna have to overcome some things. But Jonathan, moving on. John wanted to talk about his harsh comments about one Dakota Rain Prescott. Number 4 for Dallas, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys last night beat the Buccaneers 31-14. We'll get into Tampa side of things a little bit in a little bit, but we're going to cover the Cowboy side of things first. So, John, the floor is yours.
You know what, Brandon? You know what? You were right. I may have been on Tom Brady, but I was also betting on Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles. I may have been on the Buccaneers. And in the process, I was betting against Dak Prescott. I was also betting against a much better Dallas team. When you watch that game, the only takeaway you can have is the Buccaneers are an 8-win team for a reason, whereas the Cowboys were so good without Dak because they have a great roster. I was also incredibly disrespectful to Mike McCarthy. And what Mike McCarthy has is 2 damn good coordinators, in Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn. Kellen Moore had himself a great game. He was one step ahead, a grandmaster. Dan Quinn, good decision, having your number 1 corner, and Trayvon Diggs, following Mike Evans the entire way. And what did Mike Evans do in the first half? Nothing. It was one of those typical Mike Evans duds you see every now and then during the season. And I was talking him up a few weeks ago. He had 200 yards against, I don't know who he had it against, but he had it against somebody on the Panthers secondary. Trayvon Diggs, phenomenal. Micah Parsons, 9 pressures. Dak Prescott, 4 touchdowns. We saw this against Philadelphia on Christmas Eve. 5 touchdowns, you're right. He had the rollout, get into the end zone. A great play call and a great execution there by Dak. Dak Prescott saved his best game of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And for that, you have to give him a tip of the cap. Hats off to you, Dak, because as somebody that's went as far to call him Kirk Cousins 2.0, Kirk had himself a great day. Dak Prescott had an even better performance. Dak showed maybe those playoff narratives aren't quite true. And most importantly, Dak looked like a $40 million quarterback. So I'm going to sit back and eat my humble pie. In the meantime, I'm picking the Niners next week. I'm picking the Niners, man.
Oh, what a blow. Go ahead, Justin.
So going into Monday night, there were 2 quarterback performances that absolutely stood out amongst the rest. And that was, Brock Purdy, going off after struggling early against the Seahawks. And then, the team that I'm wearing right here, Danny Dimes, probably the best game of his career. And then Monday night happened. I didn't foresee this happening because I've also been critical of Dak Prescott against, pretty good defenses or in big moments. Feel like he can crumble. But in this one, he did the exact opposite. The Cowboys, he probably had the best performance among any quarterback that played this weekend. And not only that, it made me rethink how I feel about this Cowboys team. Like, but that's the thing that's so worrisome for me. Is they can reel you in, they'll reel you in, and then they'll chew you up and spit you right back out. And you just never know what you're gonna get week to week from this team. So while they looked absolutely fantastic and they have a glutton of weapons on the offensive side, and Micah Parsons, probably maybe a defensive player of the year this year on the defense, it makes you. I can't get comfortable with this team. While I was impressed on Monday night, what am I going to see from them on when is it? Sunday night? Right. So I just don't know what version of the Cowboys I'm going to get because, like I said, one week we see this team that should be competing for a Super Bowl. And then the next, we might get a week like what they had against the Washington Commanders in week 18. So I'm not going to drink the Kool-Aid and say, I'm all aboard the Cowboy train. No, I'm not there just yet. This is a big matchup and their best that they'll have all season this Sunday.
Nice, nice, nice. So Dak Prescott had what I like to call a shut y'all's mouth type of game. All right, where everybody was talking, they was chirping, they was saying Dak can't perform in the playoffs. Dak only got one win in the playoffs. Dak, oh, did you see him last year in the playoffs? He was terrible. It was one of the worst games of his entire career. Mike McCarthy, he ain't the guy. I was the one saying that too. You had Justin over here criticizing both coordinators, saying he doesn't really like them that much. You had John over here basically discrediting Dak to the end, calling him a system quarterback. How does that look now? How does that look now? So Dak, let's just peek into the numbers a little bit, right? Dak 25 of 33, and just flat out the first drive of the game had 2 drops, so 2 of those weren't even his fault. 305 yards passing, 5 total touchdowns, like John said, was sacked only once. Shout out the offensive line. They did a hell of a job, but Buccaneers pass rush, like I said, it was non-existent. And if I'm not mistaken, QBR is on a scale of 1. It's either 0 to 100 or 1 to 100. 100 being the highest, obviously, right? Dak Prescott had a 96.5 QBR. All right. I just want to shout out a couple plays he made. The first touchdown to Dalton Schultz, where he was able to look off to the left, look the safety off, came back right. Dalton Schultz was open. He hit him. And then the second touchdown, I mean, John loves his off-platform throws, right? Justin, isn't that always what he's talking about? The off-platform throws, being creative, playmaking. And Dak Prescott doing his best Patrick Mahomes impression, huh? Rolling to it, getting flushed out to his left, off balance, going out of bounds. Touchdown, Dalton Schultz. And he had a couple of runs, especially one on third down. I think in the second quarter where he dove for the first down. Dak Prescott basically showing like I'm built for this. Like I'm ready to put my body on the line. His jersey and everything was all dirtied up by the end of the game. And that's what I love about Dak Prescott, is because it's in here, the intangibles about him. Like John said, basically from the first 2 drives of the Cowboys' offensive drives, Kellen Moore called a hell of a game. A shutout, especially like John alluded to, the rushing touchdown call. Chef's get what a call. Nobody saw it coming. And Dak sold it perfectly, and he was able to just run in for a touchdown. Beautiful. The run game wasn't special, but it did what it needed to do, and it moved the chains, right? It kept the game going. It kept the clock going. And the recipe for success, there's that stat out there of Dak, winning more when he rush it, when they run the ball more. 35 rush attempts, 33 pass attempts. That's perfect. That's a perfect mix. Pollard, this kid, he's explosive, man. 5.1 a carry. He had that one, I think it was a run or it was a flick pass or something like that, where he was able to break a tackle on the sideline and make a couple of that. I mean, this kid, he's got the talent, man. And what I wanted to say, this is what the Los Angeles Chargers should have done. How the Cowboys played, how the Cowboys called the game, this is what you do when you have foot on throat, you don't relieve, you stomp down and end it. And that's what the Cowboys did. So all credit to Mike McCarthy, all credit to Kellen Moore, credit to Dan Quinn, hella credit to Dak Prescott, credit to the offensive line, credit to the defense, who wasn't great. I thought they weren't great. I thought they were good. I didn't think they were great. I thought they were just something wasn't there. They were missing that extra something that I think early in the season they were a little bit better. It probably has to do with their corners and a couple of injuries here, but they were just missing that something extra. And listen, I'm telling you right now, they're going to need that something extra next week when they go against the San Francisco 49ers in that offense, especially in that offensive line. So like I said, hats off. The only negative, we haven't even brought it up, Brett Maher. 4 missed PATs. That is, let me get this right. That is record most missed in playoffs since the 1930s. I forget the exact year they said, but I know it was the 1930s. That's not good to look at. The only bright spot, the only silver lining is that he made his last attempt and they gave him a little, and you know, you're hoping, I know John can relate to this. I know you're hoping it's kind of like when a shooter, you know, shooters just shoot. If you're over, keep shooting, and you just want to see the ball go in the net. That's all you want to see is the ball go in the net, and maybe that confidence will get rolling. So they're probably hoping and praying for that. They've said that they're going to stick with Maher. I think that's the right thing to do at this point, but you know, they're going to keep a close eye on that. If he misses the first PAT or field goal in the San Francisco 4, he's done. He's done. They're going for 2 on basically all the time. They're not going to trust it. They can't.
He just needed a field goal, my man.
Listen, the yips are a real thing, man.
Mm-hmm. And like I wanted to say, kickers, especially, they're such a mental. It's talked about all the time. It's such a mental. When they miss one, you're confident. I mean, look at Billy Cundiff. Billy Cundiff was a pretty damn good kicker. Had that one miss, and then I remember that game when he played for Washington. When he was playing for Washington, he had like 6 or something missed field goals in the entire game. I think he made his last one though, but it just changes your. It's such a mental sport because you miss it, and you start thinking about it, you start racing and stuff, you know. But it seemed like the team picked him up. They were all there for him. They were saying, "Listen, we believe in you, man," and you know, hopefully that does enough for Brett Maher going in next week because they might need him. It might come down to it.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with Rick Ankiel? Ever heard the name? Has it rung a bell?
No.
He was a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals back in the early 2000s, and he was an up and coming player. And then one day, he just lost it. He couldn't find the strike zone. Was airmailing pitches over the catcher, behind the batter, just couldn't find the zone for nothing. And he quite in fact did have the yips. It's such a mental thing where you just lose, you know, sight of your mechanics, and you can't just repeat the simple things where, you know, the simple things just as throwing a ball straight becomes, you know, you overthink it. You begin to think about how are you going to throw this ball or kick this ball. And eventually he had to, you know, really restart his career. He stopped pitching and he actually went down to the minor leagues and transitioned to become a hitter. Beautiful story. But yeah, it's a real thing, and it's definitely something that eats at people. So I definitely hope that that's not the case. I hope I'm sure he's kicking a ton at practice, but nothing can simulate the real feeling of being right there in front of thousands of fans, 50 to 75,000 fans. Practice isn't going to do you much when you got to step in front of that with the game on the line.
And we should mention the record is, or I mean, the record, the curse has finally been broken for the Cowboys. I think it's 30 years since they won a road playoff game.
9 appearances on the road, and the last time they did that, Brandon, it's your favorite gift. You use it all the time. The year of the "How about them Cowboys" so Jimmy Johnson in the locker room against the Niners in the Super Bowl. Now, I do want to add real quick to the Brett Maher discussion. Last year, he was 5-5 on his extra points. This year, he was actually the one who led the league in extra point attempts. When your teammate is struggling that much, probably what really symbolizes a great teammate the most is how you're there for your teammates when they're struggling. I think back to the game winning field goal for the Jaguars. It's like, if you miss this, your team loses. and you go home. If you make it, you're the hero. Evan McPherson last year. You talked about Billy Cundiff. The year before that, Mr. the Patriots, he was a Pro Bowler. A couple years later, Justin Tucker comes in, and even Tucker, who's known as one of the 2 greatest kickers of all time, always says, every time I go up there, I always feel a little bit of pressure. When you have that much pressure on you to do one sole task, maybe you have an injury, and maybe you don't want to reveal it. You know, there's some kickers, they tear their ACL and they never play again and lose millions. So kicker might be the most mental job in football, excluding quarterback, because it'd be naive. Quarterback, cornerback, and then kicker. I would go in that order because quarterback has to do so damn much. It's very easy to go overwhelmed. Cornerback is dependent solely on confidence and then your physicals. If you don't have the physicals, you have to be a killer. I think the third thing is kicker, because you may not be called upon often, but when you are, you have to succeed. It's literally, it's life or death. It's you succeed or you fail, and there's no in between.
Yep. It is. There's such an important position that is always forgotten about. But I mean, I know as a Patriots fan, we've fared well with our kickers going from Vinatieri, then Gostowski after that. So yeah, but let's anything you guys want to say more about Dallas? I know we'll get into the Dallas 49ers game
On Thursday.
on Thursday morning, but anything you guys want to say more?
Yeah, one last thing. I remember saying that I could never envision watching Tom Brady lose to the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, and I still can't freaking believe it happened.
I'm waiting for him to come back right now.
I
So
still can't believe it.
So we talked about the Dallas Cowboys side of things. Now let's talk about the Tampa Bay side of things, or more importantly, the Tom Brady side of things. I don't know if you guys want to really talk that much about what Tampa's performance. I mean, for me, it was per usual Tampa Bay. A lot of no run game was non-existent. Pass rush since Shaq Barrett was gone was non-existent. I mean, Dak had all the time in the world to read the defense and throw the ball. Yeah, what something I picked up on when they started running outside, you basically negate Vita Vea and Nakeem Hicks's effect. Because I mean, don't run up the middle on the Bucks, but you can run outside because now you're challenging Levante David and Devin White, who are great players and they can play sideline to sideline, but you get past them or they make a mistake or get blocked, you can be off to the races on the Buccaneers. But
Pollard's a good enough runner.
Yep. Per usual for me, it's just, I mean, they missed Shaq Barrett, they missed JPP, they missed Ndamukong Suh, these players, they missed Gronk on offense. The offense, I mean, it flashes, the Julio Jones deep pass touchdown, the one to Mike Evans that again was so close. You saw that it flashes, it has its moments, but at the end of the day, it just can't do it consistently. And that was the main problem with the Bucs. They couldn't do it consistently. And a lot, and I tweeted this. I think it was after I don't know if you guys remember this play. The Mike Evans. So it was kind of like the play had started to break down, and Mike Evans was cutting to the middle, and he had 2 defenders on him. But then at the last second, he cut to the outside, but Brady threw it inside, and Mike Evans was wide open on the outside, but that's because the defenders had saw the ball was being thrown, so they were going middle. And I tweeted, I was just like, after 2 great years with Brady and Mike Evans, it is just unbelievable to me that the miscommunication and being on different pages week in and week out, basically every week except for maybe 2 weeks. It's unbelievable to me what happened there. I mean, the one that points out especially too is before halftime with 6 seconds left. Mike Evans, why are you running a hitch route? Brady literally lipped to him afterwards. Out. You running out. It just, I'm flabbergasted. I'm so flabbergasted. I don't get what happened with them two. As for the performance, yeah, it was just per usual for me.
Yeah, I think that's the craziest thing about it. I think we just have so much this faith in Tom Brady that everything's just going to work out because of who he is. When in reality, we all go into this game thinking, oh, Tom Brady's definitely going to win this. No way he's going to get bounced by the Cowboys while he has a home game. No way, not a chance. But the Bucs just showed us exactly what they've been doing all season. They've never given us a consistent brand of football. They've never given us anything to be wowed about. If you fell in love with them the last 2 weeks, against the Panthers, and then his short stint with against the Falcons before he got taken out with Tom Brady. They looked like they were really figuring things out, and quite frankly, just turns out they didn't figure anything out at all. And if I'm not mistaken, did you guys hear Byron Leftwich is being let go?
He should be, in all due respect.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I read that today that he'll be let go. And while I continued to read the thread, it had said that he was potentially going to be let go, I think during their bye week or in the middle of the season, but Todd Bowles opted to keep him. And what's insane about that is Byron Leftwich was the front runner for the Jaguars job before he pulled himself from this position. So Jaguars definitely lucked out there. But as far as the Buccaneers go, I don't know. That press conference didn't seem all that promising about Tom Brady. And if you're not bringing 12 back, if he's not there, I think the Buccaneers just go right back to where they were when they had Jameis Winston.
Buccaneers are going to be back.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Let's get into the off season for Brady. He is a free agent. John, you want to say something?
So a couple of things. While we're on the topic of this game, I want to say prayers up to Russell Gage, who suffered a pretty terrible, rough concussion along with a neck injury. He was hospitalized. Seems like he's doing better and better. The last couple of weeks, obviously, been super just nerve-wracking in many ways. And so I'm hoping for the best of Russell Gage. He's a really good player too, man. He still has some injuries this season. And talking about Tampa specifically, Justin, Todd Bowles was asked about the future of their offensive coordinator in his postseason press conference, because of course they're bound very early, and he said there's no decision. Byron Leftwich should be fired, and so should Todd Bowles, because I don't think either of them are quite exactly fit for their current roles, if I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a complete I don't want to put all the blame on Todd Bowles, but I mean, it's starting to be, it's not a coincidence that when Bruce Arians left, I mean, his team just took a complete plateau. No. But yeah, let's talk. So,
quick thing, real quick. Minute. I had read that report wrong. It wasn't that they fired him. It's the Bucs are to fire offensive coordinator. So it hasn't been completely released yet. He's still in the organization. It hasn't happened, but it seems to be on the cusp of happening.
So my thoughts on Brady in the offseason, right? So I tweeted this after the game. I believe Brady is going to play next season. I don't believe it's going to be for Tampa Bay. I think the writing's on the wall. I think the writing has been on the wall all season. They're not the same team. You're going to go into next season. I mean, the offensive line, do we even really need to get into it? The running game is non-existent. Godwin and Evans are going to be a year older. The defense lost pieces. It's not going to be the same. So it's just not it. So for me, I named 4 options that I believe that are going to be the suitors for Tom Brady. San Francisco, Las Vegas, New England, and Miami. Those are the 4 teams that come to mind for me. Miami being a distant 4th. They're kind of in there because of when Sean Payton and Brady had like this plan. They were going to go to Miami, and then the stuff happened with Miami. Yeah. So they're kind of a distant 4th, but I could still that could be a possibility. So if we look at San Francisco, Vegas, and New England, right? New England, obvious reasons, right? Vegas, obvious reasons. He's got the Josh McDaniels connection and Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, hopefully Josh Jacobs. I think if Brady were to go there, you would have to commit all those guys are going to be back. For me, it's if San Francisco wants him, he's going to San Francisco. And there's not a question in my mind. I don't even doubt that, because he wanted to go to San Francisco when he was leaving New England first. Shanahan said no. During the retirement last year, he wanted to go to San Francisco. The Shanahan said no again. There's been a report a couple of days ago or a week ago by Ian Rappaport saying the San Francisco 49ers would be interested in having Tom Brady. If that's the case and they want him, he's going to San Francisco. And like I said to John on Sunday, I believe when we talked about this, if he does sign with San Francisco, they will be the prohibitive favorites. There will be talks of 17-0. And if that happens, instantly when they sign, I will pick them to be my Super Bowl champions going into next year. And I think a lot of people are going to pick that. You'd be insane not to.
Well,
So
everybody
that,
just did.
yeah, that's my thoughts on this on the Tom Brady situation.
Real quick on that front, it is without a doubt if you go from Jimmy G slash the entire cast we've come to know as the 49ers quarterback room this season to then Tom Brady. The guy we had single-handedly beating Dallas in his own. It was like Kevin Durant on the Nets a year and a half ago in the postseason. Yes, if Tom Brady goes from one of the worst to one of the best coaches in football, with one of the worst to best offenses in football. I mean, the Buccaneers literally could not run the ball whatsoever. And now I actually think Rachaad White's a pretty good player. They just aren't utilizing him fully. To now CMC with George Kittle and their weapons, yeah, they would probably be a favorite to go 16-1, 17-0 next year. Yes. That being said, Justin, you and I saw Brock Purdy in that playoff open versus the Seahawks, and I think you and I are thinking on the same page here. A lot of people won't agree with me. That's fine. If I'm Kyle Shanahan, I would rather the continuity with my two young quarterbacks because I'm already winning with them, evaluating the upside of having those two guys, opposed to Tom Brady, who I'm only going to have for one season. Why would I halt the development of those two guys in my quarterback room if I know Brady in 2 or 3 years is not going to be here? And I feel like if the Niners win a Super Bowl this season, which is very well in the realm of possibility, this is not by any stretch of the means. What was his name in Baltimore? 2000, blanking on his name. He was let go. Trent, yeah, this is not Trent Dilfer going and leaving Baltimore. This is two young quarterbacks, one of which was taken with the 3rd overall pick.
No, you would only be getting rid of one of them. You would be making your decision on who's your future. You would be making your decision on the offseason. Am I going with Trey Lance or Brock Purdy? Whoever you choose, you trade the other one, get some more draft compensation for the future or a player that maybe you can add. And listen, I think it would probably be a swan song season. I think it would be Brady's last season. And I mean, let's all be honest. And I think Kyle Shanahan is having these discussions too. From what you saw of Trey Lance, it wasn't, obviously what you were expecting. It definitely did not perform. I know it's a very small sample size, but he definitely didn't perform as well as Brock Purdy has. So if you are going to go with Trey Lance and he's already been projected to be a project, you would be absolutely insane not to go with Tom Brady, especially. And I had this argument with my brother earlier today saying Brady's going to, ask for, he's going to cost too much and you got to pay these other guys. No, he's not. His base salary this year is, I think, $1 million, $1 million and some change. His total salary is $15 million because he has a signing bonus that he signs. Other than that, he's not making, and I think he would take a very good, handsome hometown discount to go in there. And also, I looked at it, the San Francisco 49ers free agents this coming season. You want to know how many of those star players are coming up this year? Big goose egg. None of them. Nick Bosa, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, Trent Williams, all these guys, none of them are coming up this year.
I thought Ayuk was due for free agency. I thought
from the site.
So he has one more year before.
Okay.
Yeah, from the site I saw, I didn't see any of their star players named in this free agency this year. So if that's the case,
I'll be honest. I'm starting to question how relevant pocket quarterbacks are in the NFL at this point, or how possible is it to win a Super Bowl with them without the system around them being absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. It has to be, for a pocket quarterback to win a Super Bowl in this era of football, I feel like it's predicated on, protection. If you don't have the O-line to protect you, I don't really know how far you're actually going. So
Justin.
I was going to point out Tom Brady, great O-line when he got to Tampa, and then Matt Stafford just recently, great O-line with the Rams.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, but Joe Burrow is not
a pocket quarterback.
He can move.
He can move, but he's still a pocket quarterback.
I guess that's what I'm saying. They can extend plays with their legs. Joe Burrow can run.
He beats you from the pocket, though, Justin.
Oh, you're right, but I'm saying Joe Burrow can get out of the pocket and make the plays. Joe Burrow can also have a big game and rush for like 60 yards on the ground and a touchdown. They're not the same. They're way more athletic. The quarterbacks.
I'm not taking away the athleticism,
but that's more so what I'm getting at. I'm not. Okay. I'm saying like your Peyton Mannings, your Tom Brady's. When you see them get out of the pocket, it would be a joke. Like the announcers would laugh. we're not laughing at Joe
Example.
Burrow run.
The example here would be Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan's a perfect example. Yeah,
I mean, Matt Ryan was way more athletic than Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. He was.
I saw him break out that run versus the Raiders, right?
Drew Brees.
Yeah, he did break out a big run.
Drew Brees was more athletic than those guys. I mean, Philip Rivers was a little bit more nimble, Ben Roethlisberger, but at the end of the day, I mean, the where they beat you is from the pocket. These are pocket quarterbacks.
So-
I understand that. I mean, if you want to make the argument, have pocket passers evolved? We can have that argument, but at
Okay,
the end
I
of the
guess that's
day,
a
Joe
better-
Burrow's beating you from the pocket. Like I like again, and I've gotten to this argument. I got in this argument with you guys, and I got attacked online about it for my Russian quarterback take. And a lot of people said, you know, Mahomes is a Russian quarterback, and this guy and this guy. I'm just like, what I mean by Russian quarterback is
the Michael Vicks, is the Lamar Jacksons.
yes, but I don't want to put that on it. My definition would be he uses his legs to throw the ball. That's a pure throwing quarterback, right? Like Lamar Jackson's first instinct when the play breaks down is to run, right? Michael Vick, like you said, RG3, Tim Tebow, even those guys, their first instinct is to run. These other guys, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, I'll even throw Josh Allen a little bit. When the play breaks down, he also will be known to just take off.
He also does throw like 40 times a game.
He does. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But that's because they don't run the ball either. They literally put it on him. Yeah, it's all different. But again, if you want to make the argument that pocket quarterbacks have evolved, yes. But at the end of the day, these guys are what I would consider pocket quarterbacks, or pure passers, if you want to call them now.
I guess that's a better term for it. But yeah, I just think players of the likes of Tom Brady and Matt Stafford, I don't see them winning if they're not in the perfect situation. I can't see it happening. And I mean, look how the Bucks just completely melted down. You know, the no protection, pressure's out the wazoo. It didn't look good. Look at the Rams. No protection. Matt Stafford probably didn't even have time to even look for his receivers. His first glance was Cooper Kupp. He's open. I got him. That's his throw. He had no chance without protection. Those guys that have to stand in the pocket to survey the field, if you're not getting that protection, you're not going to succeed. And it's not solely on you. That's on your team. So when I think of Tom Brady, if the Bucks aren't going to retool that O-line and ensure them being healthy, then yeah, he's better suit elsewhere. Now, where that elsewhere is, San Francisco, sure. I would love to see him in Vegas if they fix the O-line too, and more reunite him with Josh McDaniels. If you pair him with Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfrow seems like the perfect marriage with Tom Brady.
Why would you wish that on him, though, Justin?
Let's be honest, though. That makes almost too much sense. That's the new Edelman. You have the best running back from this last season. The only thing missing in Vegas for Tom would be the offensive line. But you've already got a really good tackle.
What? The only thing? How about?
Well, I'm saying the defense, yes, it's not great, but that offense could be insane.
How about a head coach? How about?
Okay, but that's also it's a different relationship between Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady.
It is different, but Josh still has to take care of the whole team.
I feel like it'll be the perfect marriage. I don't know.
That's not a perfect marriage to me. That's a bad. I mean, you literally just talked about the offensive line, and Tampa's offensive line, talent wise, was better. It was just injured this year.
Well, I'm saying that's why if Tampa were to, not Tampa, if Vegas were to strengthen or bolster that offensive line
from, Justin?
What money?
Where's this money coming from?
We just have said all the time that.
No, I'm not talking
about the O-line. Okay.
I'm talking about to build the O-line. You paying Devontae, you got to pay Josh Jacobs. You paid Hunter Renfrow. You paid Darren Waller. Your defense is still trash, even if you fix your offensive line. What are we gonna do?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Buccaneers' offense, there is no instant source. You give Tom Brady, Devontae, Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow a longer offseason this year. And I say to myself, if there's any place Josh McDaniels is going to succeed as a head coach, it's going to be with Tom Brady as his quarterback. They have so much experience together, the relationship, the locker room dynamic. It will start to become the best thing for McDaniels to actually win games and show, hey, look, I'm a pretty good play caller. It's just a matter of us winning close, tight games. That's what the Raiders struggled with this year. So if you look at, what was it, Justin? 6, 7, 8 one-score losses? What if Brady flips half of those? And now you're looking at a 9, 10, 11 win team without even improving the offensive line. You add in a pretty good tackle. Keep in mind, they have their first-round pick. If you add in a pretty good tackle in the draft, and maybe you sign a decent center or an interior offensive lineman, there's something there. And in my opinion, Tom Brady wants to go somewhere where he feels valued, that nobody wants him more. The 49ers don't need Tom Brady.
They've already
the
rejected
Raiders
him twice.
desperately do. The Raiders desperately need him. They need some savior.
Yes.
And so it makes almost too much sense for him to feel, let me take on this challenge. It's a better situation relative to Tampa. Yeah. And keep in mind, he's already shown in the past he would have went to Vegas. It seemed like Derek Carr was that quarterback he was talking about in the shop on that podcast.
Yeah, it was a done deal.
I think it's pretty possible.
Yes, it was a done deal said by Rob Gronkowski and then later confirmed by Dana White that it was basically a done deal. Brady to the Raiders.
Makes too
listen,
much sense.
I'm not gonna discount it because I do believe they're probably the second team on that list. Like I said, San Francisco's number one. It is all about if they want them. But if we're gonna go off the report by Ian Rappaport, who is a credible NFL reporter in this league, that San Francisco does now have interest. I mean, it finally took them long enough to come to their goddamn senses, idiots over here. They're so smart in football IQ, but they couldn't decide that, maybe Tom Brady is a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance. So yeah, if they don't want him, then I think Vegas would probably be favored as the second spot. And you know what? Thinking about it, I mean, obviously, if Tom went to Vegas, you know me, I'm a Tom guy. I'm going to believe in that team. I'm going to believe in him, and I think they can be successful. And I starting to think about it, Derek Carr is going to be traded most likely. Well, not most likely. It's a 50-50 shot. He might be cut. But if you do able to trade him, you can get some compensation for him, maybe draft an offensive lineman or whatever the case may be. But there can be some retooling done. I would still have a little bit of weariness with Josh McDaniels as in charge at the helm as head coach. That would still worry me a little bit. The defense, there's a lot of holes in that defense and a lot of holes. So obviously the offensive weapons, you can't deny it. But yeah, I think, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think Tom is coming back next season. I don't think he's walking away.
And don't you think that make Vegas a pretty damn big free destination? Brady, last 1 or 2 seasons, they feel like they're 1 or 2 missing pieces away with Tom. I think that would be an even better opportunity. Justin, you said a few weeks ago, Vegas is going to regret moving off of Derek Carr, not if they get Brady.
Correct. Correct.
And Gronk might be coming back too. And he's probably going to want to go play with Tom.
Maybe Aaron Donald will want to team up with Tom.
I don't see the New England marriage happening as much as, I wish. A boy can dream, but I don't see
I wouldn't be surprised if there's conversations that are had between Kraft and Brady or Belichick and Brady. I wouldn't be surprised if there's I think Brady is going to talk to a couple teams, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised if there's conversations had between that team because I think that they are the third option. Again, probably less than San Fran and Vegas, but I think they are the third option when you look at everything.
Like, what would New England need to do to reel back Brady?
Not hire Bill O'Brien, trade for DeAndre Hopkins.
You said not hire Bill O'Brien?
Yes, hire literally anybody else. So that way.
Why? What do you mean?
That way you can get Diop. You're not getting Diop otherwise. I know he loves Belichick, but he doesn't love Bill O'Brien. Like, that's just not going to make sense. And then after
I think that to come play with Tom, that he would be fine with it. I really do. I mean, that's how a lot of Patriot players talked about.
A Patriot fan can be wishful.
No, I'm not being wishful. I'm literally about to give you a factual statement that a lot of Patriots players have said that Brady was like the middleman to Belichick. He was like, just let it go in one ear and out the other. His, scrambles and stuff, it's all right. Everything's gonna be fine. So again, I think the Bill O'Brien thing, I think you're,
re-sign Jacoby Myers in the slot. And with that front seven they have, I mean, the Patriots can be a great defense, but ultimately you and I both know he's not going there. Justin, talking about a team that won a playoff game unexpectedly, you're wearing their shirt right now, and I'm not surprised by it. I'm not. They've already beaten the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl, and right now it feels like these New York Football Giants have a little bit of pixie dust to them, a little bit of wonder, a little bit of curiosity. A team that coming into the season was projected to win no more than 5 games, just won a playoff game against the big, scary, contending Minnesota Vikings and Ed Donatello's defense. Justin, we've talked about Daniel Jones tons in the show. What is your immediate reaction coming off an awesome win for the Giants? Their first playoff win since I was in elementary school, man.
You honestly, that was the real Daniel Jones. I don't think that was a fluke. I'll honestly tell you, with Brian Daboll coming into the fold, what he did with Josh Allen is what a lot of people hope to see out of Daniel Jones, and see that kind of turnaround and, his ability to use his legs. Daniel Jones has a rocket of an arm, dude. A rocket of an arm. I'm not comparing him to Josh Allen as far as his arm, but he can throw some dimes, man. What were you gonna say, Phil?
I was gonna say, Daniel Jones misses a ton of reads down the field. I think he leaves lots of meat on the bone that in the film room on Monday or on Tuesday, I think it drives Brian Daboll crazy with the amount of opportunities he misses down the field.
Well, remember, this is a guy that it's also a first-year system. His last OC was Jason Garrett. So could cut him some slack. I think we're really seeing what Daniel Jones is all about. And ultimately, I just want to say Coach Daboll called the perfect game. It was almost flawless. They attacked when they needed to. They never let go. They just kept their foot on the gas over and over again. Shouts out to guys like Isaiah Hodgins, who they found in the middle of the season and has all of a sudden become, a boost of energy for that offense, which they desperately needed. The guys contributed on all phases of the offense there. I think this is the Giants offense that we were hoping to see. And granted, this is a team that still doesn't have the weapons that you want to see on the outside. We hoped for explosion. Like when you compare it to the teams that they're going up against, they're going against the Eagles, who have basically 2 number ones, and this is a team that has no true number one, no real scary threat at tight end. And outside of Saquon Barkley, you're not afraid of anybody. But this is a team that's just playing fearless. This is a team that's going out there and they're going to give you their all week in and week out. And they're well coached. They're a well coached bunch. So going into Philadelphia, going into Lincoln Financial Field, I would not be surprised. I actually believe the Giants have a real chance this week. I don't believe this is going to be one of those games that they're going to walk in there and get absolutely washed. No, I expect this to be a real good football game. I expect this to be what we mentioned earlier, a rivalry is going to show out. I think the fans are going to be into it. I think Giants are going to show out in flocks too. You're going to see some blue in the stands. I think Eli Manning even said he's going to the game. It's going to be a scene, and this is exactly what football needs. This is one of the best rivalries in sports, and going into it, playoff appearance. If I'm not mistaken, the Giants did this before, losing twice to the Eagles in the regular season and then going into Philadelphia and knocking them off. They've done this. I don't know. You're right. This team just has this little magic to them. And
the magic, there you go. I like that. I like that word because
if they play anything close to how they played this past Sunday,
Justin, they're not playing the Minnesota Vikings with a terrible defense and a fraudulent team. They're not playing that team. They're playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have been probably arguably the best team in football the entire season. Who you guys not that many weeks ago were saying Jalen Hurts is the MVP of this league.
Mm-hmm.
Let's dive into this game.
Yeah, I mean,
I want to jump in at Daniel Jones versus Kirk Cousins, the masterclass it was.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling John before. Well, listen, Daniel Jones had a great game. All right, you got to give it up to him. I'm not going to take the credit away from him. All right, albeit it's against that terrible Vikings defense, but he had a great game. And this team, I think the word you're trying to look for, Justin, is this team's got grit. this is what the Giants are. They're a gritty team. They're gonna give you everything that they got. They're gonna, I like the word you used, fearless. They're a team you really don't want to play. But well, John wants to get. Go ahead, John. Get into the game.
Can I just read one thing? This was
ESPN stat.
huh?
Is it the ESPN stat?
No, this is a fascinating thing about Dave Gettleman. Uh, it was a disaster that era, but some people came out of it. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Dexter Lawrence, and Andrew Thomas. All
Oh.
four were first round picks by Gettleman. All four picks were criticized at one point or another. Giants wouldn't be where they are today without either one of them. So
Yeah, the Andrew Thomas disrespect I never understood. A lot of Giants like, oh, we took a tackle at the fourth. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty important
you
position.
needed it.
Yeah. Talking about this game.
Well, he wasn't that good in his early years, John.
His first year, no, but by his second year, he's now an all-pro in year 3. He's an awesome player. Arguably the best player at the left tackle spot in football. And if you have a pretty good left tackle, your quarterback's going to be well protected. In this matchup, guys, I mentioned the name Ed Donatell a lot. Unironically, somebody that stems from the Vic Fangio defensive coaching scheme. You would think for a quarterback like Daniel Jones, who's not going to be slinging passes down the field, who likes the run, you would actually prepare for him to run the football. And the Vikings almost saw, you would have thought they were playing Matt Ryan because they were totally disinterested in actually containing and focusing on Daniel Jones out the pocket. He had 78 rushing yards on 17 carries. You talk about Mike Kafka and Brian Dable. Did you guys see that fake screen pass behind the back handoff to Saquon Barkley?
They called it the Statue of Liberty.
It was beautiful. Daniel Jones became, a Giants folklore hero that we're going to think about for the next 20 years because this game was symbolic of toughness and a quarterback that was given an unfair shake. And in year 4, coming off of all those injury-laden seasons, Daniel Jones is outplaying a quarterback in Kirk Cousins, who this year was top 10 at the position. Kirk Cousins had himself a great day, up until the last drive. Like, I love Kirk Cousins. And coming into this game, I said the reason the Vikings will lose is because Kirk is going to get rattled in the closing moments. Dexter Lawrence and that pass rush was getting to him all day. And I told you, Brandon, coming into the season, the issue in Minnesota was not Kirk Cousins. It never was. It was the offensive line protecting Kirk Cousins and the defense. Kirk Cousins was the third or fourth of their issues. In this game, he had himself a great day. The last play of the game was the Kirk Cousins we know. It's 4th and 8. You take a shot on 3rd and 8, and C.J. Osborne dropped the pass. It was a great pass interruption by the cornerback. When it's 4th and 8, and you throw 5 yards short of the sticks to a covered tight end, it speaks a lot to who Kirk Cousins is. He's not clutch. I know you love the NFL this year in game-winning drives. He's not the guy you want leading a game-winning drive in the postseason. That, to me, was pathetic. It was a pretty big sign as to, look, Dexter Lawrence in your face, you get frazzled. I said it coming to the week. We knew that was going to happen. The Vikings offense line was without Brian O'Neill. I told people, I'm not trying to run victory laps here. We knew who the Vikings were. It's the Steelers from 2 years ago, the Cardinals from last season. You have a great start to the year, but the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator is not good. Ed Donatell, I'm not sure if he's been fired, but I'm pretty confident he will be if he hasn't already. You need a new defensive coordinator. You need to improve this offensive line. And the last thing for me is you need a little bit more consistency from these weapons. TJ Hawkinson had himself a phenomenal day, but what do you know? Justin Jefferson, Wink Martindale did a phenomenal job on him. Phenomenal job. You won't even know Chez was the offensive player of the year out there. Where's that wide receiver number 2? I feel like the Vikings do miss that extra weapon. And when you have a limited quarterback like this that's not going to take you to the highest levels, those extra pieces, those second, those third receivers, they matter even more. So for the Vikings, it's who we thought they were. Meanwhile, for the Giants, I'll talk about DJ in a bit. Brand, I know you want to jump in.
Well, I just wanted to say Thielen is supposed to be the guy, but he's not the same player he once was. He's just not. The injuries have piled up, and he's just not the same player. That is their number 2, and he's just not. I mean, at one point, this guy was elite. He was elite. He is not that anymore. The injuries pile up on him, man. But I want to say, I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins is who Kirk Cousins is. He's going to take you as far as he's going to take you. I think we all know that. And it's not going to be that far. You're limited with Kirk Cousins as your starting quarterback, and if that's as far as you want to go, then you're a middle of the pack team. But if you want to get better, I mean, Kirk Cousins, you got to explore options. If there's better guys out there that you think you can go get, even if getting a young quarterback, I don't know, because Kirk Cousins isn't the guy, man. He's not. He's a good quarterback. He's a damn good quarterback. Big stat guy, like John said, had a great game. Great game. That's what he does, though, right? Puts up great numbers. Great numbers. And at the end of the day, when you keep bringing the most fourth quarter comebacks, and what did I tell you? What did I tell you guys after we reacted to the Indianapolis Colts game? I said even during that comeback, I didn't believe that it was actually going to happen. Even when it happened, I didn't believe that it actually happened because it's just that's not Kirk Cousins. It's not.
You know, it's crazy. The Vikings were the best team in football in one possession games. You know, in a game of touchdown or less, I think their record was 11-0, and comes to the postseason, that goes away. The 11-0 in the regular season, 0-1 in the postseason. So I think it says a lot. I really want to ask you two though, your assessment on Daniel Jones after that game. Do you view him a little bit in a different light? In first postseason game on the road in an environment that is tough. Granted, the Vikings defense isn't as tough, but the environment is. And two, if you're the Giants, do you extend him?
I want to jump in here first, Brandon.
Go ahead.
Daniel Jones had himself a great day. Daniel Jones is establishing himself as a fine quarterback. Daniel Jones deserves an apology, not $120 million. We saw this performance, and what it was indicative of to me is, look, Daniel, he's solid. He's really decent, and if I can bring a young quarterback considering the wins for a few seasons, by all means, I'm going to franchise tag DJ. Now, you don't want to lose him because it's hard to find a pretty decent quarterback. This game was the perfect matchup, but what we really saw is the better team in the Vikings have the inferior coaching. I like O'Connell, but the defensive coordinator is nowhere near the level of Wink Martindale. And to look at what Kafka and specifically Brian Daboll have done this year, Brian Daboll's the one. He should be the king of New York. And this guy has done it with Josh Allen. He's done it at Alabama, and we're seeing him do it now with the Giants. I'm franchise tagging DJ, and when I look at him now, pretty decent quarterback. Is he top 15? He's no Dak Prescott. I like DJ, and I think he's good, but I don't think he's in that top 12 mix where I'm making sure I don't lose this guy.
Not even close to top 12. No, this game doesn't change my opinion. I mean, so he was a bottom 10 quarterback, bottom 5 quarterback coming into the league, right? Now he's, maybe the 20th best quarterback in the league, somewhere around that ranges. I think that's a fair placement of him. He had a great game, first playoff game on the road, like Justin said, in a tough environment. But when you look at the other team on the field, defense not there. Daboll, better head coach, Coach Circles. I mean, I think that first matchup meant a lot more to the Giants than it did the Vikings, because I think the Giants kind of figured something out about the Vikings in that game where they thought we could take advantage of something. And I think the main thing you can look at is, you would say Saquon Barkley is their best offensive weapon by far, right? He got 9 rush attempts in the game. Daniel Jones had 17. That means that I think Daboll saw something that could be exploited and took advantage of that. It's going to be, listen, you're going into Philadelphia, brother. All right. It's tough. This, I think, is a tougher environment than Minnesota. I'm going to be honest, because those Philly fans get raucous, and it's outdoors. All right. You ain't in a comfortable dome. This is Philly weather, January. Now you're used to it because you're from New York. You play in New Jersey, but you're on the road. You're going up against who I believe is the coach of the year, Nick Sirianni. Jalen Hurts, who's coming off a career year for himself. The team is probably the best team. Maybe them and this 49ers go back and forth. The best team in football, talent-wise, personnel-wise. And you got beat twice by them in the regular season. One of them was a blowout when your starters were playing. I look at it and I just say, listen, this is a stat that blew my mind. The Eagles are number 1 in sacks. The number 2 team, let me get this right. Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah. The number 2 team is Kansas City with 55. Philadelphia Eagles are number 1 with a whopping 70 sacks on the season.
That was my exact guess. I don't mean to be pompous, but I was going to guess that.
John's a little whiz kid over here. Dude, 70 sacks, that's freaking ridiculous. This pass rush gets after it. And what do we know about quarterbacks? They don't like getting hit. They don't like getting touched up. What's the biggest knock? What's the best way to get beat Tom Brady? Knock him off his spot. You can get to Daniel Jones. Well, I know the offensive line has played better. We just talked about Andrew Thomas. They got a lot of bodies, the Eagles, to throw at you. A lot of bodies. Fresh legs that can come in on 3rd down, 2nd down. For like, their run defense is really good. Their pass defense is really good. We know about their secondary, Big Play Slay. You're outmatched. It's kind of like this is what I'm going to compare. It's like the Bucks Cowboys game. Some people like Justin are going to have this thing where, no, I think that the Giants can get it done, right? They're a divisional game, divisional team, rivalry. They're gritty. This is the 3rd time they're going to play. And it's tough to beat a team 3 times. I'll admit that. It's tough to beat anybody 3 times in any sport. But at the end of the day, if we believe in the Eagles, like I think you guys definitely do more than I do, they're the better team. And probably every aspect.
And it's not even close. We saw this late in the season.
It's not even close. The Eagles better go out and take care of business. Better go out and take care of business.
Oh no, they absolutely better go out there and take care of business.
I think they will.
Like I said, like you said, this is a home game for them. They need to go out there and win. The last time they played their game at home, they won. I mean, albeit it was Jalen Hurts just coming fresh off of an injury. But I think that might be the biggest concern going into this. Is how healthy is Jalen Hurts going in? You know, are we gonna, if we're getting the Jalen Hurts that we saw in Week 18, Giants damn sure do have a chance to go out there and win. Now, if we're getting all, the MVP that we got a couple weeks ago, I think it was Week 15, their matchup, somewhere around then. Week 15?
Week 14.
Week 14? Okay. If we're getting that version of Jalen Hurts, then, it might be a long day for the Giants. But I don't know. It's just something about that 3rd matchup. Look at the Bengals and the Ravens that 3rd time around. Ravens stuck it to them, man. The Ravens were in that game, and had it not been for a fumble when Huntley goes to go across the line,
a 14-point swing.
We might be talking about, I don't even know. Maybe the Ravens end up actually winning that ball game.
They do.
So my point is that 3rd time around is scary. And Brandon, you and I know this very well from the Patriots and the Jets. It's unpredictable. And that's part of the reason why I'm not trying to count out anybody. I counted out the Dolphins mightily going into that game. And you just never know what you're going to get, especially when you're going against a divisional opponent in the playoffs. They know you better than anybody. They've seen you multiple times. They're studying you left and right. I don't know. This week seems like a toss-up to me. I don't know what's the spread. I think I see -7.5 right now. I don't have my glasses. I think that's the spread in the Eagles' favor. I feel like that's too big for me. I think the Giants are going to come out swinging. And like I said, man, this is a tough one. You can't just say the Eagles are going to run away with it. I mean, they have. You're right. They beat them in every aspect of the game. You could say defense, offense, special teams. Eagles have it. But at the same time, you love to talk about intangibles, Brandon. And any given Sunday, you just never know. Well, like in this case, any given Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Both quarterbacks got that intangibles, that dog in them. And we're going to see what happens on Saturday night. I just think that, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Giants are going to come out swinging, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close first half. But I think like the Seahawks 49ers game, I think the worst team can only sustain that for so long before the talent just kind of tsunamis you. And I think that's what I kind of expect to happen, where I think that it's going to be a close first half. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants are even leading. And then the tsunami hits in the second half, where the Eagles are just like, we got to get this crap together. And we're running our best plays. We're sending pressure at Daniel Jones, and we're coming after it. And I think that's just going to be too much for the Giants. But again, overachieved this season. Nobody expected them to be here. I definitely didn't.
So I'll say my piece quickly on Daniel Jones. I asked you guys what you guys think they should do. I would love to see them sign him, not long term, but short term, not just rely on a franchise tag, because if he does have this trajectory, he's already shown that he's improved. You said he was a bottom 10 quarterback, right? Going into the season, and he might be top 20 right now, and he's continuously shown improvement. The Giants' offense has improved as he's improved. Another year in the system, another year with Dable. You don't want to let that price skyrocket and take a chance that he has a top 12 kind of season if they add some more talent on offense. And then now next thing you know, you're paying this guy north of 150. You don't want to do that. So I think you pay him short term, you get him, and it allows you to pay for whatever weapons you need on the outside.
Yeah.
Another healthy season with continuity and ideally a real wide receiver number one, unless Isaiah Hodgkins morphs into that right before our very own eyes.
I mean, yeah, no, I think you're kind of backed into a corner. You have to pay him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to.
But you have to give him the right contract, and it's that middle pack contract, that middle tier contract. And yeah, I agree. So, I mean, you're going to have to go with him, and you're going to see how it plays out if he's going to take the shot. I don't agree, John. I don't think they should franchise tag him because, like Justin said, God forbid he goes out there and balls out, and now you got to pay him even more. So get him while the price is a little bit higher than it would have been, but not astronomically high that you're like, crap, we got to, shovel out the bags for this guy.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see. This should be a fun game. This is probably
Saquon's
the most
gonna get his
exciting
bag though. Saquon's gonna get his bag though.
And also, when the Eagles take away Daniel Jones' legs in this game, and he has like 20 rushing yards, it's probably not going to be a close game. I think it should be because the Giants have shown the ability to win on the road. They have a phenomenal head coach, and most importantly, if Jalen Hurts looks like he did Week 18, Justin, like you said, the Giants can win this game. But I have a really hard time seeing Daniel actually thriving against this Eagles defense. They're way too good. I think they're too well coached, and it's really the polar opposite of last week.
I'm gonna say this. I did say before the Vikings game that I thought the Vikings should get a turnover on Daniel Jones. I will say this. I can almost foresee both teams turning the ball over to each other. I could see that happening.
So are you guys, I guess, I'll ask this question on Thursday, so forget it.
Yeah. I'll pick them.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about some worrying traits, some things that it's a little bit dicey right now in Baltimore. They had a very boring but very close competitive down to the wire matchup versus the Bengals. There was one play that really stood out. Tyler Huntley on the 2-yard line dives over the pylon, and a great heads-up play by Logan Wilson. He's able to, with great hand-eye coordination, strip the ball, poke it loose, and Sam Hubbard grabs it, take to the end zone with a convoy with his fellow teammates. Mark Andrews in that play, guys, 20 miles an hour. He was clocking in like a 4-3 receiver right there. He was so close. I think if Mark Andrews brings him down, there was a chance there the Ravens could have actually survived and still won that game. That being said, they lost. And J.K. Dobbins out of the game, according to Jeff Zrebrick of, I think, The Athletic. J.K. Dobbins said he's tired of not getting the ball, tired of being held back. He also said Huntley should have never been in that position on sneak, and then added, if we had Lamar, we would have won too.
I hate that. I'm going to let you continue, but that quote just grinds my gears.
I agree with you. It feels like something in Baltimore. We saw John Harbaugh's before halftime press conference where you have like 8 minutes as the head coach. It's super annoying to have that press conference, but he just seemed totally pissed at the reporter for asking him like very simple softball questions. How do you feel about this penalty? I'm pissed. It's very simple stuff. And John Harbaugh is just not feeling that at all. Right now in Baltimore, there is some tension brewing. I don't know if it stems from management not being willing to pay Lamar Jackson the constant expectations that come with having Lamar that lead to these playoff downfalls where you never get out the second round almost. What is going on in Baltimore exactly? Is there a chance that they lose Lamar this offseason? Is that why specifically the players feel tense, the vibes are kind of off, and most importantly, guys are kind of like fighting for their jobs, if you will, because the defense is awesome. The defense pretty freaking good. They did a really good job versus the Bengals, but offensively speaking, just things aren't actually clicking. It's weird to say. It's hard to actually put in the words.
Well, I mean, let's just get this out there, right? If Lamar had his bag and his long-term contract, he was going to be out there Sunday.
Oh, yeah.
100%. He was putting knee brace on. He was playing. Don't even think about it, John. He was playing. So that obviously that played a major factor in the reason why he didn't suit up Sunday night. And I can understand John Harbaugh's frustrations. I mean, your starting quarterback's not out there, and you have a chance to freaking win this damn game and move on to the playoffs. And you have no idea if he's going to be there the week after. I've stated that I believe Lamar is going to stay. Have there been some disgruntlements? 100%. But if I'm not mistaken, Lamar Jackson represents himself. I don't think he has an agent. And from what I know, from what I hear from people much smarter than me about business, when you do that, you're taking those meetings. You're in those meetings during those when they're talking about, all right, well, you think you're worth this, but let's look at the other side of it and let's look at the cons of why you're not worth this. Not a consistent thrower of the football. You get injured. You're at more high risk of injury because of the style of play you have
in December.
Yep. And shelf life. We're going to give you a 5-year contract. You want more than what Deshaun Watson's getting. You want $230, $250 million. What if your shelf life is only 2 years into that contract, and by the third year you are not the same player because of the punishment you take? These are the things that are going to be said to him, and I'm sure he does not like it.
No, nobody.
This is why you usually have an agent, because he'll soft blow it for you. But if he's got that thick skin, he's able to just take it. That's fine. I know he's taken strides and he's tried to get better as a thrower. But at the end of the day, we know what Lamar is. He's a running quarterback. His instincts are, I'm going to run first because of how insanely gifted athletically he is. But at the end of the day, I think they do get a deal done. If not, they're going to franchise tag him. And if that's the case, you're probably not going to see Lamar until the first game of the season, which is only going to, hurt the team. He's doing it for himself, but it's only going to hurt the team in the long run because then continuity is going to play a factor and, chemistry and all that stuff. But yeah,
Lamar's already came out and said he's not playing on the franchise tag.
Yeah.
And that's why there's this push and pull tension, so to speak, between these two different parties.
Well, here's the thing. What do you mean you're not playing on a franchise tag? We're allowed to do this as a team. If you don't do that, so then I don't know what the rules are. Your contract is voided.
He's going to hold out.
You get suspended though. The things start happening though. Consequences start happening. We've seen this all the time where yes, they hold out until like the last possible minute, but then eventually they show up because they're going to need that check. So I'm foggy on the rules right now, but I'm sure your contract maybe gets voided. You don't get that money. Maybe suspensions start happening, fines start happening.
I think the Ravens would much rather sign and trade him than play that game.
Though.
It's a cat and mouse game. It's not a game that you want to get into, but at the end of the day, I think they get the deal done. I just think that tampering I don't think that he has earned the money off of what he's done.
You know what?
Yes. But but we're not looking at what you've done. It's what you're going to do. This is a contract for the future. And like the things I laid out, those are things you have to consider as a team and a business. I believe he deserves a lot of money. Do I believe he maybe deserves that much? I don't know, man.
You know what? But when you look at the highest paid, well, at least guaranteed contracts in football, you look at guys like, I believe the top two, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray.
Rodgers is right there.
But I know
Russell Wilson, of course, too.
But I know Murray and Watson are at least in the top three, if I'm not mistaken. When I'm stacking up Lamar next to those guys, I think Lamar has done more to deserve his contract.
Yeah.
So
I
think it's crazy, and unfortunately, it seems like they're more likely headed towards a divorce. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw what Lamar posted on Instagram today. I'll read it to you guys. It was a quote. It says, when you have something good, you don't play with it. You don't take chances losing it. You don't neglect it. When you have something good, you pour into it. You appreciate it. Because when you take care of something good, that good thing takes care of you too. After I heard that today, I kind of was just, okay, this seems over. I don't feel like he wants to be in Baltimore. He said that he has, but his actions don't show that. And you know what? That's not entirely on him, because Baltimore doesn't feel the same way either. Because I think Baltimore questions, can we actually win a Super Bowl with Lamar? I mean, he increases your chances to actually get there. But when you compare him to the likes of the Joe Burrows, the Patrick Mahomes, the Josh Allens, which is going to be your direct competition to get to a Super Bowl, I don't know if the Ravens necessarily believe that they can win a Super Bowl with a running quarterback.
Yeah, he's been healthy for the playoffs.
And then in reality, when have we ever seen any one of those, running quarterbacks make it to the Super Bowl and win one?
Well, win one though. Never happened.
Yeah, win one. Yeah, it doesn't really happen. And Lamar can throw the ball. He can sling it. That's for sure. But the problem with Lamar is number ones don't want to go there because of their playing style. So,
well, I feel like that's kind of untrue.
Julio
had a chance, right? That Marquise Brown requested a trade because he didn't get enough opportunity in the Ravens offense. But here's the thing on Marquise Brown. Last year in Baltimore, after Lamar missed the last month of the season, Brown still finished with a career-high 146 targets, which was top 10 in the league. Might even been top 5. It's probably up there. So Marquise Brown got his opportunities, and he had his best season of his career with Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. So I feel like that whole narrative, it's just not really that true.
But then it makes you question. It can be the style of receiver that fits that offense. It can't just be anybody.
I also think it has to do with the consistency at which he passes, which is not at the level of those other guys that you named, Justin. I mean, can he sling it? Yeah. I mean, he's got one of the strongest arms in the NFL. He's pretty damn good throwing on the run, but it's just about consistency. We talked about it. I talked about it with the Buccaneers being consistent. That is a very, a thing that you can really overlook. But when you have the consistency, I mean, you're pretty much halfway there with it. So yeah, I mean, I just don't know where the hell Lamar is going to go. I mean, because when you bring Lamar in,
the betting odds have the Jets as number 1 and the Falcons number 2.
I know the Jets, but it's just when you bring a guy like Lamar in, you kind of have to change your offense
entirely.
You have to make it, to what he needs and what he does best.
To be fair, that's because Lamar is good enough to be the offense.
Yes and no. The main reason, John, is not because he's good enough. I mean, Tom Brady goes there. You got to change the offense for Tom too, but it's in a different way. This is the fundamental. I mean, you're literally overhauling. Like, this is now option plays, bootlegs, using your quarterback a lot more to scramble and whatnot. It's a complete overhaul of an offensive game plan. So it'll be interesting to see, because then, I mean, you brought in Greg Roman because he was able to run that style offense with the Colin Kaepernick back in the day, but now you have him and now you don't have Lamar. Is there really any need for Greg Roman anymore as your offensive coordinator when he really, I don't know how successful outside of that style of offense he can run. So, I mean, this is all foggy. We're going to, learn a lot more over the next coming weeks, next month or so. about what's going to happen with Lamar. My odds, I think that they're going to be able to talk it out, work it over, and I think that he stays in Baltimore.
I definitely hope they do, because there's no solution out there that's gonna get you to where you need to be that's not named Lamar. You know, if you're trying to at least contend for your division and potentially win a Super Bowl, you're not going to do that with any of the other guys on the market. And then plus for the other teams in the NFL, he's probably going to cost you 2 firsts and $200+ million. So that's another thing that has to be taken into account. But before we move on, I just want to touch on that quote. For somebody that has played team sports his whole life, I hate that. Like, dude, we understand that's probably the truth. It is the truth. If JK, who is probably the most talented person on their offense, him and Mark Andrews, you're not really getting him the ball as much as he probably should. I mean, they got him involved in the pass game, should have let him run a little bit more. And in that situation, you're probably better off handing it off to JK than letting him go over the top, or a QB sneak just pushing through your O lineman. So he has a point, but now that wasn't the time to say that, because one, you diss your quarterback who went out there and had a pretty solid game for his standards, and you complain about you. I'm sorry, there's no I in team. I get there's an I in win, but that wasn't the time. That was poor time. You got something to say it in private. Say it to your coach. Say it to your coaching staff or your OC. Don't say that for the world to see you that as an I guy instead of a we guy. You know, I think that was just in poor taste for somebody that I think of so highly, who I had winning comeback player of the year. Honestly, that was just extreme disappointment. Extreme disappointment.
Yeah. I want to touch on the Bengals just a little bit, the Bengals side of this. I mean, it was a poor performance, but I think the main takeaway from it, excuse me, the main takeaway from it is the O-line troubles are kind of starting again. You're already going in the playoffs without Lyle Collins, your starting right tackle. Alex Kappa, I believe the starting right guard, if I'm not mistaken. He was out for the first game. And then your starting left tackle, his name is escaping me right now. He dislocates his kneecap, I believe. Well, he's probably done for the season. So now you're down to 2 starting offensive linemen, your left guard and your center. And their center is Ted Caceres from the Patriots. Karras. The left guard I'm not familiar with. I don't remember his name.
Cordell Volson.
Okay. So they're probably hoping and begging that Alex Kappa can come back from his injury for the Bills game, because they're going to need every bit of that. They are without their 2 starting offensive tackles. That's going to be tough. The only saving grace is on the other side. We might get into a little bit the Bills-Miami game. They're starting to miss Von Miller. That's also starting to,
he's supposed to be the closer.
Yep. And it's not having him is showing itself. So maybe they take advantage of it. Maybe they don't, because they don't have that pass rusher.
And what Brandon's alluding to was in the Bills' narrow victory, 34-31 versus the Dolphins. Skylar Thompson, he did have 2 picks, but he also had 200+ passing yards. And for a Dolphin offense with no Raheem Mostert to not be able to run the football literally at all. Jeff Wilson, leading rusher, 10 carries, 23 yards. It says something that this is a game you can't get up 31 points. You can't. And so now you look at the Cincinnati team that has their vulnerabilities on the offensive line, but your pass rush isn't what it was earlier in the season when Greg Rousseau was that number 2. So for the Bills, Justin, are you think about their defense a little bit differently? Are they more vulnerable than they're going to need to be, so per se, to beat a Kansas City on the road?
Yeah.
Or better yet, a Cincinnati?
Yeah, no, they are more vulnerable. And that's the scary thing about it. This is a team, I feel like in any game that they play, if they happen to move on against Cincinnati, which I expect them to do, every single game that they play is going to be over 30 points. They're going to have to put up points to win. Unfortunately, they have the offense to do that. But you don't want to rely on shootouts. You don't want to be in a shootout with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and them. You don't want to be in a shootout against Patty Mahomes and Travis Kelce. You don't want to do that. So it's not the greatest recipe for success, but they're fortunate enough to have the pieces on offense to keep up.
Yeah, no, I want to know. I want to know this. MVP didn't look that good on Sunday, did he?
He struggled. He
He's
struggled. But
struggling. He's turning the ball over at leading the NFL basically. He's got 22 giveaways this entire season.
granted, the pick on Cole Beasley just bounced off his chest, man. It's good
Justin,
defense.
that's 1 out of the 21 other.
Yes, I'm talking about the game. I'm only focused on.
fine.
Well, that's the thing about
I'm just
playoff
saying.
football, man.
He had how many turnovers did he have in this game? He had 3,
Mhm.
and he also had 2 other fumbles that could have been turnovers that he was lucky they didn't.
Mhm.
Again, the saving grace is that Von Miller's not on this side for the Bengals, but also the Bills have to deal with they have a shaky offensive line as well.
Mhm.
It's not been playing up to par. I do want to say this. I understand what happened, and nobody could have foresaw the DeMar Hamlin thing happening. But I call a spade a spade. The Bengals did get the short end of the stick in this situation because they're going to have to now go to Buffalo and travel to Buffalo and play in Orchard Park.
Yeah, it should have been in a neutral site this one.
It should be in a neutral site. It should be. It's
The Chiefs Bills game will be.
it's a little ridiculous. It's unnecessary. It's unfair. It's unfair. And I know this isn't a situation, but it's just. I mean, you fight your ass off the Cincinnati Bengals, and I feel like they were the team that got the short end of the stick out of Kansas City and Buffalo. I think they got the short end, and I think that's a little unfair in my opinion. I know it's a touchy subject, but at the end of the day, these teams are fighting for their careers and their put food in their families' mouths and fight for their legacy and stuff like that. And that literally could be the difference in a season. Not playing in Cincinnati or not playing in a neutral site. You're playing in Orchard Park. This has become one of the worst places you want to go to because those fans get up and they travel and they love that team. Yeah.
Well, Joe Burrow was asked to that on Colin Cowherd's show for the volume, and he said, "Look, man, it happens. We're not happy about it, but it is what it is." The Bengals last year went to the Super Bowl. They were a resilient team a year ago. If they want to go back to the Super Bowl this year, the type of resilience needed to win in Orchard Park, that's going to be necessary. If they don't win on the road, it happens. It happens.
Oh no, I think they're built for this. 100%. Don't twist. They are built for this. They are 100% built for this. Joe Burrow's built for going on the road and beating a high level team in the playoffs. He's 100% built for that.
He definitely
so is that defense.
Definitely.
I know a lot of that defense that Cincinnati has last year is really what took them to the Super Bowl. It wasn't just Burrow, because against the Titans, Ryan Tannehill had all the interceptions, all the turnovers. That Cincinnati defense to me is elite. They're well coached, they're complete, and truly have had their injuries throughout the season, but I think they're going to really muddy things up. And for Josh Allen, we're going to talk about this game on Thursday for episode number 67. If he has a couple of turnovers and you're giving Joe Burrow ample opportunities to go out there, especially on the Bills side of the field, this is going to be a down-the-wire matchup. I think it could be the game of the week, depending on how the other 3 matchups go. I like the Bengals a lot in that matchup, even still, fellas.
Yeah, I do wish that game was the Sunday night one. Instead, it's Sunday afternoon. But regardless,
I mean, I think they gave it to the Cowboys because the Cowboys had to play on Monday night, so they wanted to give them the longest possible opportunity.
Which is fair. I mean, they shouldn't have been a Monday night game anyway.
And it's the Cowboys, and they are the most valuable and most watched team. So, but I do got to say this about the AFC side of the playoffs. These are stacked matchups. These are great matchups. I mean, I know the Buffalo Bills and Bengals game. That's one I'm highly anticipating and looking forward to. But something about Andy Reid versus Doug Peterson just tickles my fanny. Tickles my fancy. Whatever you got to say, whatever the feel. It's just the student versus the teacher.
Peterson was the Chiefs' former offensive coordinator back a decade ago.
The Jedi versus the Padawan. It's time to do it, man. And I love that matchup. Who's going to out crazy? Because these guys, their egos, they run deep and they want to be known as the most creative and the best offensive play caller. There's going to be some things dialed up. Did Andy Reid, it was one of those situations where I taught you everything you know, but I didn't teach you everything I know? Be
And
interesting.
Trevor Lawrence, Brand, how many losses does he have through his career on Saturday?
34,
Coming off a 27-point comeback last week.
34-0 on Saturdays. And Trevor Lawrence, I believe high school, college, and NFL career.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
these two teams matched up early in the season, and the Kansas City Chiefs had the better half. Score is a 10-point game, but Chiefs really had that one the whole way through. At one point, I believe they were up like 27-10. So I'm rolling with the Chiefs anyway. The Jaguars, the story has been incredible, but I really do hope it's a great game. It won't be the last matchup that we see of Trevor Lawrence and Mahomes in the playoffs. That's for sure.
No, and Justin, the Jaguars at that point in the season were 3-6. It speaks a lot to this team's resilience.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact the Jaguars are on track to have a top 5, top 10 pick, and currently they're one of the final 8 teams left.
And Justin, I don't know if you know this. I brought it up to John before the game. The forecast right now is saying it's going to be a rainy day in Kansas City.
Travis Etienne last week, 4th and 1. That guy is special.
Usually in a rainy game, you favor the team that has the better run game.
I guess Urban Meyer did something right.
Now, one thing being said, the Chiefs in that matchup November 13th did outrush the Jaguars because Pacheco, 16 carries, 82 yards. This was one of his best games, the breakout performances we saw. And Mahomes as well, 39 rushing yards, whereas for Etienne, only 45. So this, to me, is the most interesting game because we saw the Titans with, a rookie quarterback almost beat the Chiefs on the road. I think it's well in the realm of possibility the Jaguars can beat the Chiefs on Sunday. It's unlikely, but there is an aura about Trevor Lawrence.
They're live underdogs. They are live dogs.
And they are very resilient defensively. Their defense was key in beating and shutting out almost Justin Herbert, who was a top 5 quarterback, right? The Chargers coming to the season were this Super Bowl contender. And with their backs against the wall, Doug Peterson, the guy who won Philadelphia Super Bowl, Andy Reid wasn't able to get that accolade, that nod to his name. This is going to be a fun matchup and a fun dual game between these two quarterbacks. Now, I'm pumped up. I'm going to be watching this game. My brother Joe, he is a huge Chief fan. They've had their luck before against the Texans and the Titans in the postseason, not against the Colts in 2013. I think this is the type of game where the Jaguars can become that new team in the AFC South that stunts the Emperor, so to speak, in the AFC.
That'll be 3 straight postseason losses for Patrick Mahomes.
Okay.
I'm just throwing that out there. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think that's true. It'd be 2 straight losses. Because last year, remember?
Yeah, right. Correct.
It's the Bills.
Well, I mean, him being ousted out of the playoffs. So it'll be 3 straight years.
Oh, yeah, that's the expectation of Patrick Mahomes. In his first year in the postseason, he came back, what was it, 20, or was that his second year? He was down 24-0 against his top 5 quarterback in Deshaun Watson. And you know what, Justin? That was when the game started because the Chiefs hung up 51 points on the Texans' heads.
Listen, all I'm saying...
Super Bowl, he comes back from being down 10 points and wins against Kyle Shanahan. And last year, 13 seconds left. You've seen the walk. I've seen the walk. Patrick Mahomes, the Grim Reaper. Don't sleep on that man. That's why he's the best quarterback in football. And when Josh Allen loses to Joe Burrow next week, I'm going to tell you, Josh Allen's really damn good. He's top 3.
I'm not sleeping.
Mahomes is a step above him.
I am not sleeping. You guys just don't understand where I'm coming from. I just feel like the AFC is absolutely loaded with elite quarterbacks, that the road through the AFC is going to be going through so many different teams each and every year. This year, it could have almost been Buffalo. It could have been Cincinnati. Next year, it could be different. It could be the Chargers. It could be the Raiders next year.
No.
You do not know.
Hey,
Justin.
This
is when the season starts for the Chiefs. This is where the regular season's done. Okay, now we can rip out this last page in the playbook. Now Andy Reid can get cooking, and now Patrick Mahomes can really take these games seriously. Because in the regular season, they were messing around half the time. I know I was very high on Jalen Hurts MVP, but back and forth. The MVP doesn't matter. The Chiefs don't really care. They're focused in the postseason. The 18 games, the 17 games, 18 weeks, they don't care about that. This is what they're built for.
You know, I asked this pre-show, and I'm going to ask you guys again, just so I'm going to rephrase it. Are you guys rooting against Josh Allen because of how much I hype him up now? Going
No.
into this game on Saturday or Sunday. Are you guys actively rooting against Josh Allen?
No, I saw that Dolphins game though, and I'm leaning Cincinnati now.
So, but who do you want to win though? Not your prediction but do you
I want the Bills to win. I'm a Steeler fan. What kind of question is that?
Okay. Brandon?
I want the Bengals to win. I'm a big Joe Burrow fan.
Okay.
You're gonna need somebody once to retire.
Somewhere in
Justin
the back of your brains,
listen.
I know I just want Justin to be wrong.
No, it has nothing. I mean, you're usually wrong, but I don't. It has nothing to do with the fact that
Who won the pick'em this year?
He didn't win pick'em.
I finished above you.
It's not over yet. The playoff. We're tied right now.
Oh, we're still doing the pick'em. I was so far ahead. I forgot we were doing the pick'em. I'm like the Kansas City Chiefs over here. I'm like Mahomes.
Wow,
I would be in first if I didn't miss a week.
But what I got to say, I mean, it has nothing to do with your feelings toward Josh Allen. I've always had a little bit of, I just think that there's something missing with Josh Allen as a player. And one thing I do know that I can guarantee, the Bills are not going to win the Super Bowl.
Write that down.
I don't need to write it down. It's in my mind. It's happened. So it has been said.
Writing it down.
So it will be done. You want to know what the Bills are known for, what their claim to fame is, Justin?
Yes.
What their franchise's claim to fame is? You know what it is, right?
Losing four
straight Super Bowl trips, 0 losses. That's what they're known for.
0 losses. What?
They went to 4 straight Super Bowls, John.
0 wins. 0 wins.
Oh, sorry. And 0 wins, 0 losses.
I say we look at them quite differently if that were the case.
Oh, they'd be a freaking dynasty, but no. Sorry. 4 straight Super Bowl appearances, 0 wins.
Things are changing, man.
They're not changing because they still haven't been back. And again, I'll say again, your argument for Josh Allen for the last 2 years has dwindled each year because he hasn't had a better season than he did 2 years ago. That was his best year of his career, production-wise and team success-wise. So, I mean, it's just he's had down years the last 2 years.
Okay, that's insane to say down years.
Not.
Down
compared
years?
to his best season. Yes, compared to his best season. Like I'm saying, you keep trying to make the argument that he's the best quarterback in football. What I'm saying to you is you would have a better argument 2 years ago than you did last year and this year.
Oh no, man! You saying?
I do know, man.
You saying he's regressed? Like
I didn't say that. Those words never came out.
Okay,
of my mouth.
you saying down year? That's not a down
his career year.
Career year. Okay, so that means Patrick Mahomes has had nothing but down years since his 50.
That's a factual. That's a fact. Okay, yeah, that's a factual statement.
Okay, but Patrick Mahomes hasn't had a down year.
But my main point. All right, stop trying to twist my words. My main point is you would have a better argument of him being the best quarterback or player in football 2 years ago than you did last year and this year. That's
but the thing is, I would have never argued that for the simple fact that was his first big breakout year.
That's bullcrap because you've literally said on record that you believed he was the MVP that year and that Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Okay,
I said that, but I didn't say that he was the best quarterback in football, the best quarterback in the league. I wasn't going that far to say that because I still saw Tom Brady as the best QB in the league, just because he didn't win MVP.
Semantics.
It is semantics.
It is. You know he's not the best quarterback. You're just holding on to just a little string. You know he's
I'm very excited for this weekend.
I would be too. Now I want to test your guys' knowledge. Not test your knowledge here. Did you guys see the Luka Doncic? I guess what would you call it? The painting of Luka Doncic in the entertainment district of Dallas. It's Luka with all of his best games this year, 60, 20, and 10, the best outlines, and then it's Luka holding up the please send help sign. I thought it was amazing. J-Ray,
I didn't see that. I didn't see that.
I didn't either.
So Mark Cuban emailed the artist himself. His name's Spencer Paddock, and was like, "Hey,
his name's Spencer.
I saw it.
Now you saw it.
Yeah, I remember.
Now you saw it.
I remember it. Yeah.
He's like, you made me look like an idiot out here, freaking getting all hyped up.
I love Mark Cuban. Great dude. But it's pretty indicative of the reality. If you don't like when the fans get upset, maybe try to pair Luka with the second star. They've tried, they failed, they wasted some bullets. It's going to be tough now because they don't have the good, because of how great Luka is, they don't have good enough draft picks. But I really feel like for Dallas, they're just one piece away. The issue is with their current assets and what they have in the chest, I don't know if they can get that one piece.
But what is that one piece to pair with
It's
Luka?
it's a secondary creator, a Chris Middleton, if you will, that can close games for you in the postseason and can take some pressure off of Luka. But at the same time, can shoot well enough off the ball. Chris Middleton's dealt with these injuries with the knee and the wrist surgery and whatnot. That's the ideal player here. Doesn't have to be a top 25 player, but you know, that type of wing.
Luka's the closer though.
But we've seen every year in the postseason, with Luka's current usage, his current trajectory, long term, you cannot mass produce these seasons when he doesn't have that star creator.
That's not what I said. I said doesn't matter what secondary star you go get. Luka's the closer at the end of the day.
But he needs some fresh legs.
That's what John, listen to the words coming out of my mouth. I said, regardless of the second star you bring in, so I'm agreeing with you. Okay. He's still the closer. Luka.
What makes a great offense is multiple different chargers that can come at you. No single man can win a championship.
I agree with you, John.
That's why James Harden needed Chris Paul. Luka is the closer, yes, but if Luka misses some time in the playoffs like last year, who's going to take the throne? Last year was Jalen Brunson.
I'm agreeing with you, John. Do you not hear the words coming out of my? I'm agreeing with you. I literally just said that.
But you're stating the obvious. We know Luka's.
Okay, well, you're stating the obvious too. So what are we doing here?
Well, Justin asked me the question, what exactly do they need? I said they need someone
to answer the question
off the table on defense, but at the same time, he brings a level of off-ball shot making and just can connect the offense together with some perimeter one-on-one creation. So,
well, you know, I mean, I'm allowed to make a comment on the situation too.
Well, you're just. I'm trying to tell you.
Well, I'm trying to tell you something too. I'm trying to agree with you and make
you're
your
not
point too. But
you're not going to trade for Hingus Pingus and make Luka the second option in the clutch minutes. We know that.
Okay, Porzingis. Okay, no, I said a secondary star. I said a secondary star.
Yes. And the other thing I want to point out,
they didn't fit together well. You obviously got to get the guy who fits with
the Hingus Pingus reference was a joke.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys saw this, Brad. I know you're going to like this as a Tom Brady fan. Last night in the Lakers, 140-132 win versus the Rockets. Rockets Wookie. Jabari Smith went up to LeBron and was like, I'm going to drop a fun fact on you. Your first ever NBA game, you played my dad. Mm-hmm. Now, Jabari's dad didn't play in that game. He logged a DNP. But that is pretty wild. That Jabari was born 1 month before LeBron James. And now 20 years later, LeBron is still hanging up 48 points on his former opponent's sons. In 2 years, these kids that are rookies coming to the league are going to be younger than LeBron James' NBA career. He's going to be in year 22, playing at an all-NBA level. And I'm going to apologize to my boy Andrew on Twitter, 5As. He saw the video where I said LeBron's not a top 10 player in December, or maybe it was November. Brand had him in his top 5. I had him outside my top 10. I got to apologize. LeBron's playing out of his mind, and right now he is beating Father Time for the time being. It is unbelievable the type of longevity this man is having. At 38 years old, he is literally keeping the Lakers season afloat. And their roster, it would be the worst team in basketball without him. And right now, they're playing well enough to the rate of which you're around the 13th seed, but you're only a couple games out the top 8. When Anthony Davis does come back in a month or so, this navicular injury, it's pretty serious, because if that becomes a stress fracture out a year, he is getting to that point, man.
That's why he's got to get. Get Paso, maybe go.
Is he still there or no?
I don't know. I think so. But no, I agree. But what I wanted to ask Justin is, about the Kevin Durant thing, because I forget you were here when we. Oh no, you weren't here when we talked about it, right? Or you were here when we talked about it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
we've spoken about KD plenty of times. So
no, the most recent one where John got really mad at me about the him gassing out in overtime.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
You were here. Did you comment on that at all? Did you make? Because I don't remember. Did you?
No, you guys were going
Okay, so
Blow,
you
blow for
didn't.
blow.
So what were your feel? So like John took words out of my mouth like he usually does, right?
Mhm.
Um, all I said was that he gassed out in overtime
Mhm.
and he collapsed, which is a factual statement. I mean, that cannot be argued. And that I thought if you were a superstar in this league, talked about as a top 15 player of all time to some people, arguably the best player in the league currently, you get paid very handsomely, I might add. What is that, 40 million?
I get where you're going with
plus?
this. You can't
Yeah.
you can't score 0 points in overtime.
Yeah, and I'm sorry that you played 53 minutes, but again, like I've said this before, regardless if it's apples to oranges, different sports, different situations, there are situations I can bring up where guys are dog tired, or insane things happen.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kevin Durant's coming off a torn Achilles that season too.
Aren't you the one who argued that later in the season, usually you're back to the normal of yourself because it's kind of like a different season?
Usually that would be the case
All
up
right, so
until
this
you
was a
play a
question for
total
this
of
was a question.
136
I mean,
minutes.
What was the
this was a
question?
question. This was a question for Justin. But don't worry, I can bring up points too, John. I mean, did you know that a mother, if in distress enough, can lift a goddamn car? Did you know that that is physically possible? That is something that can happen. So if you're telling me Kevin Durant can't string together 5 more minutes of basketball, give me a goddamn break. So Justin, what I'm trying to ask you
I don't
is,
even know if that's true.
what
I
it
feel like
is 100%, Justin. Have you heard that? You've heard that?
Yes, that is the truth.
Yes, mind over
Uh,
matter. The mind can
a
do
mother
very
polar bear
crazy.
or
And
what are we doing?
any freaking mom.
That's
Yes,
a terrible analogy. It's
that's
one of the
not
worst
a
analogies I've
terrible
ever heard.
analogy. That's
Adrenaline
crazy
takes
things
over,
happening.
John.
Yes, crazy
Adrenaline
things
takes
can
over.
happen. Insane
No.
things can happen.
No.
So what I'm at, they happen all
Don't
the
compare.
time, John.
Let's not compare that to let's not compare that to
Said
Kevin Durant
a
running on
mother
a
polar bear.
fuse, my friend.
No, but I mean, it's a crazy thing
I mean,
that can happen.
on the other end of the floor was Drew Holiday, who could not guard him, PJ Tucker, who could not guard him, but then Brook Lopez and Giannis waiting for him at the rim. So, in
But
spite
again,
of
he just had a historic regulation game, so why
yeah,
couldn't he
with
just?
no legs in regulation, by the way.
So then,
No
how did he
legs.
drop that? How did he drop those points if he had no legs?
By the end of regulation, he had none.
No,
You
I
said
asked you, how did he drop? You just said he didn't have legs for the whole game. How
at
did
the end of
he drop?
regulation, he ran out. That's why you said,
But now
did he
you're
have
changing
legs
your-
when he
you're
made that
changing your
turnaround
narrative.
three-pointer with the time running out? No, he didn't.
this-
That's why he opted for a turnaround three-pointer opposed to penetrating the cup because he
Okay,
had
so
no
then-
gas
so then
left.
he
But he's
had
that
no
good of a
legs.
player. He is that good a shooter where he can still make a shot like that. And Slepeta had nothing left in the lower body. That's how great Kevin Durant is.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question, John, because this was supposed to be for Justin. I apologize, Justin.
Okay.
This was supposed to be so. John, let me ask you a question. Soccer they run a lot too, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I'm not a soccer guy, but I'm pretty sure there are things that, I don't even know actually how long the games are. I would imagine that they actually play longer than basketball players,
90 minutes.
especially continuously because there are no timeouts and stuff like that. So continuously, I mean, I would argue that is pretty goddamn hard, no? But we see these soccer players and we hold them to this standard, to go in, a shootout or penalty kicks and make a kick or whatever. I can bring up mixed martial arts. I can bring up a fight of Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum in a goddamn war. And at the end of the fourth round, going into the fifth round, Israel Adesanya says to himself, and it's picked up on the mic. I think it was picked up on the mic. I'm willing to die for this. I'm ready to die in here. That's the shit I'm talking about, John. So you coming up here with Kevin Durant and all these little TikTok commenters coming at me, getting so mad that I said dig a little deep. Oh, he's never played organized sports or anything like that in his life. Excuse me. You can't dig deeper? Is this not what we ask of you? Again, I will repeat, top 15 player, arguably the best player in the league, former MVP, getting paid very handsomely, best player on the Nets. You just did it for regulation. I just saw you do it for how many minutes, Sean? 53 minutes, right? I just saw you do it. 48.
Those boxers are
5
different,
minutes towards
bro.
the end.
Those
yes.
are the
53.
top. What do they call them? A Sigma male? I don't even know what they call them. Those boxers they're a different breed.
Okay. I know what you just said, and I agree with that statement. you're trying to change the narrative. I'm talking strictly the mindset. I'm talking strictly the mindset. I understand the mindsets are different, but mindset of being a highly competitive player and being able to, you just did it in regulation. If you guys are going to really sit here and argue with me, and I'm not saying you, Justin.
Yeah, it's definitely not me.
No, if you're going to sit here and argue with me that 5 minutes prior, this guy was absolutely balling, having a historical game. Some people might call transcendent. Not even 5 minutes prior. He has a little bit of rest and he can't muddle up 5 more minutes to go win a game. You kidding me right now? Then what the hell was that in regulation? And you say no legs. So when did the legs give out? On the last shot, those legs gave out?
Probably toward the
It's kind
first
of
6 minutes.
isn't that a coincidence
the
that the
two
legs
games
just
before
happened to
that,
give out on the last
the
shot?
2 games before that, the only time he got subbed out was in a narrow, not narrow, but an out of reach loss at the
Was
end.
Kyrie healthy for the first 2 games of that series?
Yeah, where was he the last
Did
time?
Jeff Green have a great game? I think it was game 3 or 4 where he went like perfect from the field.
Buddy.
I'm not saying he's great. I'm just saying he had a great game. I'm bringing up facts, John. I'm not making any
Great
statement.
teams, not great individual players, win championships and go to the conference finals. It's not
Individual
one or
players
two great
don't.
players.
Individual players don't.
It's an individual great player with an individually great team. LeBron had Kyrie, who was phenomenal in the finals.
Whoa! Who's
Kevin
bringing this
Durant
up? Who's bringing this up? What are you bringing up?
For any finals level or any championship level team, there's a superstar the most of the time, and then a couple of stars, a couple of great starters,
Yeah.
a couple of really good bench players, or a great head coach. It's not Kevin Durant, Jeff Green, Blake Griffin on one leg, and James Harden on half a hamstring.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is about this.
I want to get Justin's opinion on this.
I do understand where both of you guys are coming from, but I won't use him not scoring in OT as a knock on him, like to crumble him and take out his legacy.
As you should.
Yeah,
as you should.
because KD's KD. But obviously, yes, that is considered a collapse because you know what?
Mhm.
You got to measure your stars the same way you would measure anybody else. LeBron's the most criticized player on the planet. If he went out there and had that same exact moment, we would never hear the end of it. Guaranteed. You never.
Yeah, let me bring up this. Tom Brady, John. You always bring up the Philadelphia Eagles game, but you never bring up Tom Brady's performance of 505 yards, a playoff record. Never bring that up.
No, we haven't talked about the.
But
Eagles
no, I'm just
show
no.
the
You
time.
brought it up though. You've brought up that game. You've made your pot shots and Joe, but you've never brought up that point. So that's what I'm saying though. You know what I mean? That you can have a great game. And I do want to say, I do want to clarify. I do want to just clarify, John, because Justin did hit it off the bat and rightfully. I should clarify. I'm not taking away anything from Kevin Durant's regulation performance. It was historical. It was transcendent. Okay. It was phenomenal. Whatever word you want to use to describe it, it was. I'm stating a fact. In overtime, he did not show up.
Well, he was playing pretty good defense on Giannis. He was making the right play, but his teammates could not hit open shots.
And that's the other side.
Overtime or regulation?
Well, in both. That's why in regulation he had to take over himself. In overtime, he gave James Harden opportunities. He couldn't get past Giannis. James Harden had a terrible turnover at the end of the game, and an awful one. So you look at all of these different factors for the Nets. Kevin Durant was making the right plays. A couple of shots in the back. I mean, we're looking at like a 4-shot sample size here. That's a pretty narrow thing. Because if he hits 1 or 2 of those, you're not talking about him going scoreless in overtime. You know, it's basketball. It's a funny thing to really analyze, and sometimes we overanalyze something so specific when the grand scheme of things, it'll paint a much clearer picture in our mind. Like Bob Ross.
That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out answer. That's a cop-out answer, and I don't accept it. It's a cop-out answer, and I'm not accepting that.
Do you accept Do you accept Kevin Durant's defense? It was pretty damn good in that series. I mean,
it was good. I never took anything away from his performance in regulation. My only statement was that he did not show up in overtime, and I think I mean, I don't know. Would you hold LeBron to the same extent? Would you hold MJ? Would you hold Bird, Magic, Shaq?
Michael Jordan for his entire prime had arguably the best Robin in NBA history.
Saying that. I'm saying in the same exact situation, take KD out and put another great player in. I'm holding them to the same standard. That's all I'm saying.
Right now, the Nets are on a 3-game skid, fellas. I lost to the Celtics. The Thunder are playing really well at Josh Giddey's development. And tonight, the San Antonio Spurs. We saw a little bit of I guess you can call it a fight after Jeremy Shohan made a few open shots and Markieff Morris, got into a little scuffle, so to speak. Ben Simmons had one of his more aggressive games. He finished with a triple-double. No Kyrie in this matchup specifically. It's quite clear to me right now, without Kevin Durant, the Nets aren't actually a 500 team, and that speaks to how important he is. All-league defender, 30-point per game scorer. You take this guy out the environment, and we're seeing for Kyrie, he's the ultimate play finisher, but for this Nets team, I'm growing a little bit weary that if Kevin Durant doesn't stay healthy, when I say I'm growing weary, that's the only thing that can hold him back. I think they're the second best team in the Eastern Conference, but I'm looking right now at this team saying to myself, Kyrie is going to need to be the number 2 here. And TJ Warren himself, why are you laughing? TJ Warren had himself a really good first half. He played himself a great game coming off 2 years on the pine. All I'm saying simply is the only thing that's holding the Nets back this year from a championship is Kevin Durant not being on the floor. If he is, the duality of him and Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant starting, Kyrie finishing games, he can still make the case it's the best duo in basketball. I would prefer the Celtics duo, but right after them, KD's arguably the MVP here. And so for Ben Simmons, a TJ Warren, better yet, a Nicholas Claxton, it's quite clear to me because of how great a player Kevin Durant is, these Nets are going to need him.
Yeah.
That being said, you want to also win games without him, so he's not rushed back. If you rush Kevin back like you did last year off the sprained MCL because you're 0-11 without him at one point, then yes, he may come back and he may re-aggravate something. He may lose some legs. He's not in the right conditioning. So for this Brooklyn team, I'm keeping a close eye on them. I want to see how they continue to build off of these games, so to speak.
Now he's keeping it close. Justin knows exactly why I was laughing. All right. You know exactly why I was laughing.
No, because I kind of agree with John.
No, because this is literally exactly what he said before the season started. Completely ignored it when he was making his case being on the Nets bandwagon. Now the injury happened. Now he's seeing the product of it. And now he's come back to his first statement. I'm literally like, I don't know. I listen to you guys. I listen.
If you weren't so busy laughing over there away from the microphone, you would have heard me say that that's the second best team in the Eastern Conference.
I did hear you say that with Kevin Durant, though.
That was
your caveat.
The only thing I could point out about John flip-flopping is in the beginning of the season, you were not on this train about the Brooklyn Nets. Very far off.
He wasn't. I'm not either.
I know. I was the only one that had high expectations.
Buddy, they changed head coaches, watched Nicholas Claxton break out into a first-team All-League defender, and TJ Warren is playing basketball. We did not know Jock Vaughn was going to be here. We thought Steve Nash was.
But regardless,
so, coming into the season, I'll be the first to admit it, dude. I had the Raptors finishing above the Nets in the Eastern Conference. But everything has changed with Jock Vaughn. Now, defensively, we're seeing Nicholas Claxton have himself the season most people were hoping he would reach. Now we're finally seeing it come to fruition. And TJ Warren as well, man. I think a lot of people tend to overlook him because of all the time off. But tonight, 19 points off the bench. You've got Cam Thomas, a bunch of different bucket getters. So, yes, it is okay to change your tune a team that had all this overhaul within 3 months.
You're right.
You're allowed to.
And guess what? Kyrie Irving is just doing the damn basketball, and he's playing out of his mind.
John,
overall.
You are allowed to do that. You're
He's
allowed
came back to earth or last.
It's just funny.
Take a deep breath. You're allowed to do that. My whole point is when you don't acknowledge that you have changed your opinion. That's my point. And you completely disregard that you even had this other opinion that just...
It's not important at this point.
That's not important. It's kind of important when you're on a show and you're out here saying, oh, this is one thing, and I'm not even going to acknowledge I even said that. And now you got another thing. That's the problem I have.
We've only got so much time on air, but you say, you know what I mean? I've only got so many breaths. You're right. You know what? Next time, I'm going to do a better job acknowledging it. You want to know what I'm also going to acknowledge? Utah Watanabe is shooting 51% from three. Atop the league. Atop the league.
Okay? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about the Nets still?
Utah Watanabe.
Oh, Utah Watanabe?
Yeah.
He's a good player.
I know he's a good player.
All right.
Is there anything else you guys would like to add before we wrap this thing up and move on to episode number 67 here over at WGP?
Looking forward for our pick 'em.
Right.
I'm looking forward to that Bills game.
Same.
Justin.
Same.
For those of you wondering,
I'm out. Just want to get this out. If the Giants win on Saturday night,
The Giants win.
I want you guys to go out to your nearest sporting goods store
Mm-hmm.
and go buy yourselves a Giants shirt and
You can blow that opinion up your ass.
just it's not an
Just
opinion.
100%.
I think
Straight up, Justin, with all love, you can blow that up your
for
ass.
show's sake, if
Nope.
that happens,
Nope.
you guys have to do it.
Nope.
are you paying for it?
No, you guys are. You guys have jobs. Go
I'm
go
not
to the
buying
clearance
anything
rack.
Giants
I'm sure
shirt,
they
nope.
have some shirt over there. Doesn't need
It's
to be the
not
prettiest.
happening, brother. It's not happening.
Listen, I'll go buy a Patrick Mahomes shirt for you guys.
Is this some sort of pun? Yeah,
You like Patrick Mahomes. That's
Patrick
the
Mahomes is
difference.
awesome.
Tell John that.
Well, that's because you were disrespecting Patrick Mahomes to hype
Very
your boy Josh Allen up.
I mean, you
You
said the
lost sight.
guy. You said the guy was. What was the word? I don't know, but you were disrespecting him.
Yeah, you were losing sight.
It was in the moment. Not my best.
It was misdirected anger. It was
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
There you go.
Because you were wrong about your MVP choice. That's why.
That's what I said. He's my.
You were in a corner. You were in a corner,
He's my MVP.
and you fought back. And you decided to fight back.
He's my
I didn't know what was
MVP.
going on. In my MVP.
I was going down swinging. I didn't give a damn what I hit. Sorry,
You were
Pat.
wrong.
I accidentally threw a stray at Patrick Mahomes, but
You did.
Accidentally, I think that was calculated. He said, "You know what? You thought for 20 seconds." Patrick Mahomes got smacked in the Super Bowl, and then smacked last year versus Cincinnati. And when Josh Allen goes into Cincinnati and beats Joe Burrow, I'm gonna be sitting here saying, "Watch out!" in the conference championship round. That's what you said.
I didn't
Too
say.
bad, Josh
Did I
Allen.
say him going into Cincinnati? Did I get that wrong?
No, Patrick Mahomes, Justin.
Oh, Mahomes poster. You gonna buy it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to buy it. His brother's probably got a Patrick Mahomes jersey.
We had a. Oh yeah, he's got some.
Yeah.
My dog's got one too.
His
With
dog's
all
got
that
it.
being said, we got cut off before by the amazing effects of not enough disk space. Is there anything else you guys like to add before I wrap this thing up?
The second time that's been dropped.
That was the greatest way to end the show.
Nothing else to be said.
Not enough dicks.
That's it.
All right. Anything
All right.
else?
That's all.
That's it.
That'll
That's
wrap
all,
up episode
folks.
66 of the Wise Guys podcast. I'm John Tortorelli from Brady Capozziello with Justin Wright. And as always, we'll see you next time.
Stay classy.